haven't had a net on ours in a few years.
Yeah, I got a lot of neighborhood kids who show up, so it makes me feel a little better.
We're getting ready to retire that thing anyway. It's
Yeah.
days.
I have an 8-foot one. I might ask if anybody wants to come get it.
Yeah.
It's more like a dog fort.
It's not perfectly level where it is. Just a little.
Oh yeah, I know you're
So when you bounce,
kind of go.
well, over time the frame has kind of bent to fit into that.
I wanted to see how good. Not just really cool.
We're on that. We're always going to touch in front of our house.
Depends on how heavy.
Yeah. Well,
Kids can.
they're still like.
I mean, I saw some photos.
There's no way they
I
can
was
push
out
that
there
thing all
because
the
I
way
didn't
out.
realize what was going on. I was at
Our friends,
at noon.
the Reagans.
Oh yeah, so there's
Wait on
There's the
rain.
ground.
Right.
Okay, go for it. And then left and realized what was going on.
It was a mess.
I knew that.
Yeah.
My office, you can just see, and there's.
I knew that. It was just
Oh. Yeah, because I ended up going north on this one, the county line, down to Zebra, and yeah, that intersection.
keep getting lucky. You keep getting lots of cool people moving in. I've been lucky this pretty much the whole time I've lived here. My fingers crossed. I mean, there's no control over it. We've been very lucky.
super down there. Kids rains outside.
They, I have families priced out right now. Can't afford
Florida.
Yeah.
This is it. Right. Oh no, this is easy.
The market was a little roller coaster ride today.
Yep. You can expect that for a while now. These ups and downs.
Oh, yeah, in the beginning of last week too. Or was that the week before? It's not remember now.
You are.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to get started. It's October 13th, 2022. It's our regular council meeting. Lori, can you do roll call?
Mayor Young,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone,
Here.
Councilmember Deamba,
Here.
Councilmember Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, tonight's invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Vice Mayor Kyle Stone.
Let's pray real quick. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to serve for the residents of the Village Tequesta. Please be with us as we go through this agenda and give us wisdom to make wise decisions. Please be with all of our first responders and everyone that works for this great village and all of our residents. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to presentations. I don't believe anyone is here from the Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County for the first presentation, so we'll go ahead and move to the second presentation, which is from Paul Bosse on Little League Baseball.
Thank you, guys. I will try to keep this short because I know you guys have more important things to do. Thank you all for your time. Mitch Crowder is going to be here in a few minutes. He was caught at the bridge, so let's see here. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring Little League Baseball back to this area. It's been vacant for some time. Let's see Okay. So again, there's a lot of other serious business in the room tonight. We know you guys sit through this, but Little League sports. So I use the word problem here, and I've been thinking about this. I probably could have used a different word because there are bigger problems in the world than Little League baseball. But they're currently, sorry, here we go. There we go. There is no Little League in this area, with the closest being in the North Palm Beach district, North Palm Beach Little League. You can see here that I use this address, the 345 Tequesta Drive, which is this building. And this is the National Little League website, and this points you to the closest Little League, which is, as you see, North Palm Beach, Florida. Excuse me. So that league, there were only 2 teams that actually played out of it last year, with us being one. And the problem is for the people locally here, that was a 20-minute drive, and they're very, very outdated facilities. And actually, to actually play the games, we had to travel down 45 minutes or an hour to actually play the games. And with this, I guess today is a really good day for this, with this weather, and we all see what weather and bridge closures and things like that are going to do. The upcoming bridge closure, I believe, actually necessitates the need for, a closer league for the players. Obviously, for parents, as we all know, people that are trying to get their kids to these practices or games, this will obviously create another additional hardship in addition to traveling 20 minutes to the nearest closest league. So why no Little League in the area? When I first moved here, I was a little perplexed because Little League is a household and a brand name, and it didn't make sense to me. But it appears that most of the surrounding towns have gone to Cal Ripken. JTA and Gardens both played the Cal Ripken League, and really I think the reason that it came about was for all year-round travel baseball, which Little League normally was, it was seasonal. But also when they did that, they built new facilities, and so it's probably pretty obvious that a lot of these kids like to play on fields and the facilities that are really nice, and clearly JTAA and Gardens, I would say, probably has one of the nicest fields and complexes in this whole country. So why do we need to bring it back to Tequesta? Because it has tremendous value, right? It's a healthy opportunity for these kids in this area. We're not trying to compete with other leagues. They'll still stay in existence, and they do great things as well. There's some subtle differences to the Cal Ripken versus the Little League. But clearly it allows families to spend time together. It allows their grandparents to come and watch. And as I said earlier, it's a household name. So, but bigger than anything, it teaches sportsmanship, character, and loyalty. And that's a part of the patch that's on every player's jersey that they would wear on these, when they play their games. And then also it gives the community here in Tequesta something to, teams to cheer for, support, and help them to that success. And also, the biggest reason is because we have really a hidden gem in the Tequesta Park. As you all know, there are 3 baseball fields there, and they've been left behind, right? But when you pull up to this park, you can see it, and literally, if you play baseball or sports, you can smell it and feel it. So it's a great place, and that's why we're looking to bring this league to Tequesta Park. So Jeremy, for purposes of time, this is the video, guys. I'll play a little bit of it. Essentially, what this does is
baseball and softball are just open to everyone. The movement that Little League and baseball has done to embrace all avenues, all ethnicities, and any socioeconomic background, it's just been awesome. And baseball is definitely for everyone.
playing the other teams gives you a sense of knowledge, like learning their other language, just having fun with them too.
The coaches just kind of step back and just observe, just the interaction that you see with these faces and these kids. I told my wife as I talked to her, I said, man, I just wish that like the world would see how these kids interact. It really would make the world a better place.
You see how much there is for kids all around the world. It shows how much support that these kids have. And when you're that young and you see kids not too much older than you playing baseball, it inspires you.
Just in our team.
So again, I think for purposes of time, we'll move, but Little League Baseball touches everybody in a really special way. And so the opportunities for players with the rec league here closer in the area, obviously there's opening. Our players did not have an opening or closing day ceremony. There's things throughout the season, the home run derbies, the ability to play all-stars through the district, state, regional, and ultimately the Little League World Series. I think maybe a lot of people in this room over the summer, it's a great tradition that you can watch these kids come on national TV from all around the world and come together and give a lot of people something to cheer for. And then ultimately in the video, also community service, which is a big part of the Little League. So here's a couple of things here. Obviously, everybody knows who Yogi Berra is, right? And we always appreciate what he has to say. But this is true, right? I really love this quote. Little League Baseball is a very good thing because it keeps the parents off the streets. And then we have another one here from Keith Hernandez, who I think is in this area, right? The great thing about Little League was that anyone could play it. So I'm supposed to have, Mitch has made it here yet? So about us, there's supposed to be someone standing next to me, and there's a whole host of people standing behind us ready to do this. I am actually the CEO of Charleston Laboratories. We moved our company here, I think, in 2014. I've been pretty blessed and fortunate to lead a lot of people and we've done some pretty special things. Our building is over on Highway 1, and I think the thing here that I wanted you guys to know is this is, actually there's Mitch now, this is something that I had complete oversight over.
trying to hide out here.
So,
You've been mentioned.
oh, great. So this is something that I had oversight over, and I felt it was necessary for you guys to see that this is something that I had my hand and finger on the pulse of everything that happened, from the entire 26,000 square feet, from purchasing the colors, the landscape, the whole nine, right, the whole finished project. So I do coach a couple of in the junior leagues here. I did play college baseball and other sports. And really, I think the biggest thing for me, and the last one here, very, very proud member of Little League. That's me on the bottom right. I had the opportunity of winning 2 state championships. And this team here actually came to Florida, where the regional used to be, hosted in St. Petersburg. Very similar to what they do in the World Series. And it was a very special time. So, you know, this means quite a bit. And of course, this is Mitch. He's fashionably late. He's caught at the bridge, but he is an educator at King's Academy. He is the coach of the middle school football team, and also he coached the women's softball last year. But more importantly, he's done it as well. He played Little League. He's had the, great fortune to coach a lot of people that have done a lot of special things and made it to the professional ranks. So why us? I mean, obviously I think we're very motivated to make this happen and work with, more importantly, the town and the staff here amicably and professionally to bring this league. So enough about us, it's about the kids here, the Little League. What would happen for you guys on the council? There's 8 sections of Florida. We would be in section 2. And John Knapp is the District 7 administrator. We'd fall into District 7. And I think you see here, we actually traveled down to Del Rey, as I mentioned earlier. And you're going to see North Palm Beach is the next closest. And then, obviously, we're hoping to put that Tequesta there #1. So what we utilize at the park there, the 3 fields, the parking spaces, the restrooms, the concession stand. And I want to make mention of that concession stand. I know extremely important, I believe, to the asset of this league. I mean, if you've ever done it, when the foul balls go out, kids get the foul balls, they bring it back to the concession stand for a piece of bubble gum, which helps keep the cost of the baseballs down. You know, people like to be able to go and get their kid a hamburger or a hot dog, and more importantly, I've spent a lot of time at those fields over the past, I can't tell you how many months, and I see very, very nice residents of the village there eating lunch, and they're always talking to people, and so it's not really just about baseball. It's a really nice, I think, covered area for birthday parties and for people in between the baseball. So field 1, field 2, and field 3. And so what we're looking to do is we're looking to get this off the ground, and this league would start in February and then April, May, and then roll into All-Stars. And our hope is to have the inaugural teams 3 at least. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball as far as timing goes, but we're looking to hopefully field 3, and if we can get this okay and put our website and the marketing materials together, we'll kind of see how everyone's going to fill up. But we would definitely have to interleague with some of the surrounding little leagues that were on the previous slides, because of volume of numbers, and so we would work that out and have teams traveling to us, and then us still have to travel some. The limitations obviously are the outdated facilities, and then the practice field. There's not enough space for just a huge league. But the other thing would be anyone that would be against the upgrades that we're going to do and proposing to do at the park, and anyone against, I guess, not wanting to use the fields. So our next steps would be for you all, whatever approvals that we need to get from the council, and then work with Jeremy and the town on the lease. And as you see, we're looking to put in, $15,000 to $50,000 in initial field upgrades to, support this league. And we're looking to ensure that would be the league that would be on the fields, and that we would operate year-round like the others. And then anybody that would want to use them, we clearly would allow them to, as long as we didn't have things going. So once things are approved, we will be a 501c3 nonprofit. We will form that. We actually have waited on that just so we didn't have to do a name change, and begin the improvements that you guys are getting ready to see, and do a whole number of things to get this league ready to get off the ground and running. So things we would do immediately: stake the fields, move the anchors, get the fields prepped and ready for the new sod. And as you will see, as I mentioned, this will be a self-supporting league on a 501c3 through donations, sponsors, volunteers, and all the things that everyone knows about a 501c. We would utilize the town council support in the town park, any park maintenance that doesn't change, but we're not asking the town for anything monetarily or to change any budgets to do this. And I like this: if you build it, they will come. I think a lot of people may recognize the lower right there, the Field of Dreams. So what we're looking to do, this is maybe hard to see, but we'll bring the field, and this is hard, just some of the best pictures you can find. We'll bring the fields in the conditions that are normally associated with Little League. And the Phase 1 work here does not involve any permits or anything that we have to pull or do. We're looking to bring in a new fence at 200 feet, which is the standard distance for Little League. The great thing about that is that there are lacrosse teams that are there right now that are using these fields, and that would actually give them 2 lighted, dedicated lacrosse areas that we would stake out. So we would be close neighbors with the lacrosse teams that are currently there. We would obviously add new warning tracks for player safety, the protective PVC to the tops of the fences. I think it's important for you guys to know Triple M, there's some of the, will be one of the vendors that we're going to use for the grading of the fields. John Fidanza, great friend of mine, obviously drafted in the professional ranks. It's his team over at Triple M. So we're looking to cut in the infield, grade, haul in the sand and infield dirt for the fields 1 and 2. We would obviously have to build pitching mounds and things of that nature for safety. We're going to use Mr. William Poole here to do the sod, some of the dirt work, the irrigation of the fields. There's some slight tweaking to that to make sure that would obviously protect the investment and the safety of the fields for the kids. Add the foul poles, scoreboards, and I think the key here is that we've found something that we don't have to mess with the power supply, which is great. It can go off of solar and some other things, so that's really good. Add some batting cages. Obviously, we work with Jeremy in the town on where those might best be placed. And then clean up, green space clean up and spruce up around. And then the phase 2 work, we would have to work with you, Jeremy, and the town, because I think it would involve permits. There's some things where shade is needed for the grandparents, parents. We need to correct some dugout issues that are long overdue. And then also maybe, I know there's some storage, but maybe some storage that would have to meet certain requirements. But ultimately, we think for you guys to have in the Little League would give major support for what you guys are looking to do for your approved new complex over there, which is very exciting. And that, you know, I think as the approved plan calls for the fields and the cross fields. So hopefully that will give something for you guys to, and then also obviously anything that you guys have events, the Tequesta Fest, future events that need to go on that field. We're open to just making sure that things are covered and working with you guys on that space. So, and that would take us to the end. And any questions right now?
Thank you, Mr. Bosse. Any questions from council?
None from me.
Yes.
I do want to just kind of mention this is not a workshop. This is a
Absolutely.
presentation. So if it gets too nitty gritty, we might need to push this to a workshop.
Well, that was one of my questions, is would you be open to coming to council in more of a workshop setting? Because I do personally have a lot of in-depth questions to clarify a lot of usage rights and also timelines and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think we're opposed to anything, but I did want to say, I think I think a lot of the questions that you'll ask, I know that we can work with legal, but absolutely, whatever it is that we need to do, Laurie. Our backs are against the wall a little bit as far as timing goes, but whatever is necessary, we're here to do. As you see in the slide presentation, we're here to work with you guys and whatever it takes, whatever you guys need. So.
Okay, and the only other question I wanted to clarify why you were here, you know I'm a baseball mom, as well as other sports, and we do have so many other sports organizations in our community, and our kids are involved in all different organizations across the board. A question I got is, if you could clarify, are you starting just a Little League for the Tequesta northern area, or are you bringing kids that are currently going down to North Palm and trying to grow what exists?
Yeah, I think most of the kids that were on our team were so what it is, they do boundaries. And I think if I could flip back, our boundary is pretty wide right now because Little League is non-existent here. And so this is for the kids in this area in Tequesta to not have to travel 20 minutes and then travel an hour to play baseball games. So yes, it would be for the kids here in Tequesta and all surrounding areas. And the way they do it is it's boundary, so.
And the only other thing in relation to that, do you have a max for your league?
Golly, I mean, I hope that that's a problem that we're looking.
Or do you have some sort of idea of what, because I'm sure you've polled the area of how many kids we have and looking at the rosters for the other sports organizations.
That's a great question.
So I'm just trying to get an idea of how many kids would be possibly using this field if a Little League was formed for up here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I mean, I think
so
the
you don't have to answer right now. I just want you to.
Well, what that's going to come down to are our ability to. Is it one field that we can get ready? Is it two fields that we can get ready? And it's going to come down to the thing in all the areas is And as Mitch will tell you, it comes down to everyone practicing on the fields that you play on. And so I think that's a good long-term problem that we hope to get to, but we want to make sure that we get this off the ground. And if we're talking about that, we've been a great success for this area. But I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I've looked to see exactly how many kids will sign up. I know that Gardens runs a great league, JTA runs a great league, and who pulls here and comes here, you know, there's subtle differences to the leagues and what Little League does versus what Cal Ripken does. So that's a really hard thing to pinpoint, but
Okay, so
I don't think we're turning anybody away.
Okay, so it more, like, if we did a workshop containing this item, I obviously would love council to get into the nitty-gritty with the usage, doing some sort of timely contract, and really hammering out all those details so everyone's on the same page and we know what is happening. So I will not ask those questions right now.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I've had a chance to spend some time with Paul and Mitch discussing this, and I played Little League Baseball as well. I don't know how many of you remember the Detroit Tigers team in 1968 that won the World Series, but I was in Detroit at the time, and I was in a place called Franklin, Michigan, and I got to play baseball with Al Kaline's son and Hank Aguirre and Norm Cash, who were all members of that World Series team. So that was a pretty unique experience. But Little League, I agree with Paul, it's a tremendous opportunity. The sportsmanship, the camaraderie, and everything that it builds in the community, and again, not only with the kids, but also with the parents. And I think too, as has been mentioned, you know, with the bridge going down and some of the other challenges we're going to have, I think having something that's more local based, that, you know, again, it's not going to just be Tequesta kids, but it's going to be make it a lot more convenient for the kids and the parents, you know, during that period of time. And so I think there's a wonderful opportunity here. They're willing to put the time, energy, effort, and make the investment into Tequesta Park because those fields have been substandard. They haven't been able to be utilized for ball games. So I think they bring a certain level of excitement and interest to the community, and I think the park improvements will be very valuable for us. I mean, we do have a long-term plan, and we're obviously talking about having a referendum in the spring. We're talking about obviously continuing to pursue state grants or appropriation monies, but we don't know exactly when those things might occur. So we have a great long-term plan, but it's hard to say when that might be fully realized. So I think this is a good intermediary step to really enhance the utilization of the park. And then if those things do happen, you know, this will fit right in, work right in with it. So. You know, I think it'd be a great thing for Tequesta, I really do.
Thank you.
So I've always said I want to see kids on the fields, and so that would make me happy to see kids actually using those baseball fields. So, and I think competition's a good thing too, and so I think that would be even better to increase and improve the level of baseball for our students. I would recommend that if we have any contracts or ideas or legal documents already somewhat out there flowing, if you could get those to us before the workshop so we can review those, that would be appreciated. But other than that, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, I'll say thank you for presenting. I appreciate your passion for Little League and definitely realize the value that it brings to a community. But yeah, I do have kind of a slew of technical questions, and then also more high level, how does this work towards our master plan, but are all more appropriate, I think, for a workshop. So I think the next best, if everyone seems to be in agreement with considering this, is to put on our next workshop agenda.
Yes.
It does not meet your October 31st deadline, however, so I just want to throw that out there. I don't know exactly if your deadline's because of season or what, but we do need to make sure we're going through the proper protocols, you know, our leases with the state, we need to work out that. I do believe, and Keith, you can advise, we might have to create a new policy for an agreement like this, which might take some time.
That has been my position from day one. This is going to require some meaningful policy work for sure.
Okay. So yeah, we'll have that on our next workshop
Which
agenda.
means over 3 months from now,
Yeah.
easily.
Okay.
If I could just add, so at this point, unless council's giving me different direction, we're gonna workshop this. Legal has not reviewed any contracts, has done any work from this. I've specifically waited for council direction before I've engaged him. So unless there's anything different, we will leave legal out of it until we workshop this and get further direction from council.
Correct.
Okay.
Alrighty, thank you for your time. Okay, so do you think someone from, is it Suzanne? From Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County to talk about the housing bond?
Yes, Suzanne Cabrera from the Housing Leadership Council filling in for Jack Weir. And it took me an hour and a half to get here from Garden, so I feel for those kids if they have to travel. So starting out, oh, is this? Okay, great. Talking about housing and there is a whole housing plan, but I'm going to focus on what's going to be on the November 8th ballot, which is County Question 1, which is the housing bond. And we did a housing needs assessment, we as HLC and Florida International University, which showed from 2010 to 2019, we fell behind 20,000 units. I got an update and about 5,000 more were added. So we're just missing 25,000 units that we did not build in that time, rental units. So severe supply and demand imbalance. I've been doing housing for 30 years and that took me by surprise. So we did document things. We have the study available. Also, should we have over 100,000 cost burden households in Palm Beach County paying more than 30% of their income, and 50,000 of those paid more than 50% of their income. So based on that study, we did a housing plan, and a focal point of that was funding and financing. And one of the things we realized, we can't depend on the feds, the states, so we really need to depend on ourselves in the county to take care of this issue. So we went through a lot of issues, ideas, but came up with a $200 million bond. On the left is what you'll see on the ballot, and this is what happens when lawyers get half your words. And we had the remaining words and really couldn't describe it though I wanted to, but we're basically asking voters to approve a bond issue to increase the supply of housing. And I think everyone knows, but if not, a bond is a loan that pays investors a fixed rate over time, and this would be a 20-year bond. Because of Palm Beach County's AAA bond rating, we could do that very easily. And I'll get more into the cost of that, but that's what you'll see on the ballot on the left. And it'll be right after the amendments, the state amendments. And this would be, the proceeds of the bond would be gap financing only. This would be for builders to produce homes and apartments that would be for 140% of AMI, which is 128,000 and below, for our essential workers. And of course, we'd have to pair it with other things. We're trying to build 20,000 units, and 200 million divided by those 20,000 units, 10,000 a unit's not gonna get you the whole way. So we're going to have to depend on impact fee waivers, also mainly on the county, and other funding sources to come together. But this is only gap financing. A developer would have to have, whether for-profit or nonprofit, the majority of the financing in place to make this work. And why it matters, this is from the CVS on the corner of North Lake and Military. 24-hour CVS routinely closed because they can't meet their minimum of 2 employees to stay open. I talked to the manager, he said we start at $15 an hour, we still can't get people. And there was a study done showing that the service industry, that housing, behind higher wages, housing costs are the main reason people won't stay. And you see in the mall, you know, why they have to cut their hours, and then some areas have had to close, and we're finding trouble recruiting teachers, all our essential workers, our firefighters. One is driving from Arcadia, I found out today, to have the kind of housing he'd like on that salary. So it really is becoming an issue that we're all starting to feel. And why the bond funding will help solve the crisis is basically it's a supply and demand issue. When we found out there was that much of a shortage, normally I wouldn't say throw money at an issue. This needs some money thrown at it because we have to catch up. And that's the reason, basically, that shortage, why landlords can raise someone's rent $500. You ask to negotiate, and they're like, I got 50 people behind you, so pay it or leave. And once we fix the supply and demand imbalance, we'll see that dynamic change a little bit. So this, as I said, only to add units. That's all this bond issue is about. And essential workers priced out. We have a member of administration on our board. Starting salary is $51,400 for a teacher. We go by the rule of threes. You can afford about 3 times your income or 1/3 of your income for rent. A teacher could afford a mythical, magical unit at $155,000. I mean, I'm just not getting any teachers or any essential workers in homes right now. Our average home price right now is $550,000. Although home prices are going down around the country, they're not really budging that much in Palm Beach County. We still have pretty strong, still a seller's market down here. And by the way, a teacher really can't afford to rent. And for rent, this is at $18 per hour, which is our average sales worker, can afford $910 a month in rent. Also, not something very available in Palm Beach County. And honestly, if you even doubled that, they'd have a lot of trouble affording rents, especially in the north end, the south end. This is really central Palm Beach County. And how bonds work, as I said, only low-interest gap financing. And it's going to replace more expensive debt and equity required to build the unit. So they have to have the deal in place. But our goal is to try to replace it with either, it'll be 0 to 3% loans that will be given out. If you're a nonprofit doing at the lower end, you're going to get that 0%, basically free money. And on the higher end, if they're doing 140%, they're going to get the 3%, which is still so much cheaper than equity. And with debt going up, it's going to be a lot cheaper than that. And the good thing is these are all loans. There's no grants in this, so it'll all be repaid. And that fund, the repayment will offer an ongoing source to help us in the future provide more housing. And I'd like to assure everybody, especially for the audience, this does not impact the approval process at all for residential units. We are going to see if we can find ways, and this is part of the housing plan, to lower construction costs by speeding up permitting, allowing density where appropriate, and in the right places. And all projects still have to be approved by the county or municipality where the housing units are being constructed. Nothing changes on that end of things. And where will the units go? That's a really good question. And ideally, you want to locate on major thoroughfares near employment that can handle the additional density. The West Palm Beach Transit Village, really wish they had more affordable units in that, because perfect place, near Brightline, near Tri-Rail, on all the bus lines, everything you want. And they're trying to create that as a walkable area. It is a walkable area. But also we're looking at opportunities for what we call adaptive reuse, which is basically where you take like a vacant shopping center or other commercial uses that can be converted to residential units. I know there's a really nice parcel down near the new warehouse district in West Palm. That's a perfect opportunity. It just requires, it's very close to housing already, but it's zoned commercial, so that would be an obvious area for that. I know a church that is also making use of their land and wants to build actually more affordable for teachers and things like that on their property. And then also, so we have municipalities giving us this, we're looking into it. There's a very quick, any council or commission, actually under House Bill 1339 from 2 years ago, 2020, can convert any use to affordable housing just by a vote. It doesn't have to go up to the state, doesn't have to go through all that rigmarole. Obviously, you'd still want public input, but this will really help some of our municipalities that actually want housing in their area move much more quickly. And then, of course, the Glades. They've been getting businesses like FinFrock. I get a call from teachers all the time out there, gee, I'm tired of commuting out here, but I need some reasonable housing out there that, I want to live in. So it'll be a real opportunity to build much needed housing out in the Glades. And how much it'll cost. This is the good part about the whole thing, and these numbers are all from the county budget department. $4.36 per $100,000 of assessed value. And for the average homeowner, which is $550,000 right now, that will work out to $14 a year. I live in a slightly less expensive townhome. My cost is going to be $8.50 a year. So we're not adding a ton of taxes, and people can figure that out, and we can get you right to exactly what the payment's going to be. But, you know, that shows you the collective impact. If we get everybody working together on this problem, we can make it a very reasonable cost to try to make sure our workers can live here. The people that make Palm Beach County such a great place to live, we really want to make sure they have a place here. And anything touched by bond money has to be deed restricted. That's really important that if we're spending this money, they have to agree to certain rents for at least 20 years. And the county will also have to be notified if any of the for sale units, those will also be deed restricted because they'll be sold at a certain price. And they're getting a lot of upfront subsidy just in getting the house for a lower price. So our goal is creation of 20,000 units over the next 10 years. So basically 140% of AMI and below. The lower they'll go, the money will go out through RFP. The county's creating things where if you create more affordable housing, you'll probably get more points, you'll probably get that lower interest rate. And we did this housing plan, which is available and happy to give to everybody, and it focuses on 4 areas. And funding and financing is really important. That's where we decided we had to take our destiny in our own hands and have our own funding sources, because you've heard all about the state stealing our money and the Fed money being too restrictive. Planning regulatory reform, and that's things like impact fee waivers and really expedited permitting is the big thing. Time is money, and that's what I hear all the time, especially from our nonprofits trying to do something that they just don't have the extra reserves to do this. Neighborhood revitalization, my favorite part of the plan, and this is where we preserve naturally occurring affordable housing and really work to preserve those neighborhoods. And there is an initiative called Middle Neighborhoods, which I'm really diving into after November 8th and really seeing how we can work on the neighborhoods we have and make them very desirable. So when people want to move to Palm Beach County, they'll say, yeah, we got a lot of great established neighborhoods we want to move into. And then racial equity, we're doing a study right now to look at parts of the county. And this, again, will be to create benchmarks and make sure if we're trying to improve home ownership rate in Pearl City, for example, in Boca, we know what that home ownership rate is right now, so we know if we're increasing it. So that'll help us really set reasonable goals and make sure we're also doing things like heirs property rights, making sure people have clear title to their property, people have wills, all that goes along with really trying to help neighborhoods that maybe have had a disadvantage in the past and really need help in catching up. And we know this is important to economic resilience. Aerojet Rocketdyne has been hiring engineers, $80,000 a year, great benefits starting. People come down here, look for housing, and renege on the offer. They're like, no, just can't live here. I'd rather go to Huntsville and live in a mansion than live in a little townhouse in Palm Beach County or pay 50% of my income on rent. So it's critical to the economic resilience and health of the county. So that's why we're asking for this. And really the Housing for All plan, landlords participating will have to annually certify that they're meeting their legal obligations and charge the right amount. The county has a workforce housing program that really hasn't been a problem in the whole time. And if we find a problem with it, it's usually that they have new people in the leasing office, and it's really easy to fix. And homeowners getting these more affordable units will be required to provide a notice of sale. There will be something on the property to show when it's sold. Not saying the county will buy it back, but they want to keep track of all the housing that they've contributed to. And all loans and bond proceeds will be backed by recorded deed restriction. And our organization, the Housing Leadership Council, will provide some oversight and monitor, not as a gotcha, really to say, if we're not on track for those 20,000 units, what can we do to make it better to speed up the process? So that's why we're asking everybody, we're going to get more into the plan after the 8th, but our most urgent deadline right now is November 8th, when you're going to see that right after the state amendments is question 1. And it'll be for or against. And obviously, I'm asking for a for vote on that. Any questions?
Thank you, Suzanne.
No
Council
questions.
comments or
Great presentation.
Okay, and I made
Fantastic
it.
cause. I hope we're able to help the county reach their goals.
Yeah, I hope everybody can understand. If people can't vote for this, then I wish they would call me, call the Housing Leadership Council, and I'd be happy to answer questions. As I said, it's not perfect, but I think this is the best shot we have of really addressing the severe supply and demand imbalance.
Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Any other council
And
comments or
who is
questions?
it again that's actually determining affordable rents?
Yeah, that is set by, it's benchmarked to HUD. They've always done it. Ours tend to go a little bit higher because they do median income. And we have a lot of very wealthy people, and you go right to the middle, and that middle ends up, we wish it was on average, but at least it's a benchmark. And some of the developers in their proposal can say, you know, I'm gonna go 10, 20% below that. They'll get more points. Everybody wins in that case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I don't know, I have a question, maybe I might cause a problem here. I guess I have a problem with local government getting in the business of
Oh,
starting
they
to
don't
build
want to be in the business of it. All they're going to be
business of
doing
loans and mortgages
is
and so forth.
providing the financing. This is a financing mechanism only. We're trying to harness the market. So when they build, we can get the kind of units we need in Palm Beach County. And we talk to developers, and that lower interest loans is very attractive to them. So believe me, they are not going to manage any of this, run any of this. And it's worked really well with their workforce housing program. I know that's been criticized a lot, but those 1,600 units created are my go-to units when a teacher calls me and says, I need a place to live. And I have that list of those more discounted rents because it does provide essential workforce housing.
I would rather see a bond for $200 million to increase the pay for teachers.
Yeah, I get that. I love teachers. My mom was one. But, you know, that's difficult. And for now, we have that 20,000, now 25,000 unit shortage. And at some point, we have to address that because everybody is getting priced out, whether it's nurses or people on the higher end that won't come here. And you'll hear this, Kelly Smallridge from the BDB, just ask her how many deals she's losing out on because we can't provide housing here.
I don't think Kelly's struggling.
Huh?
I don't think Kelly is struggling getting businesses into Palm
Oh,
Beach County.
she is. She has had some deals fall apart, including she's having trouble with New Day USA. They want to recruit workers, start at $75,000 a year, and they have been trying so hard to find units for their workers. And she really has been struggling. And the other option is higher paying jobs. And as I said, we can't solve all the problems. This isn't perfect, but it's a place to start. And 5 years of work has gone into this. We've looked at plans and ideas from all over the country during that time.
I appreciate you coming.
One quick question.
Sure.
So I know it's obviously affordable housing is a huge problem here, but if the bond gets approved, you know, it's a year, 2 years between design, entitlements, permits, construction before these are actually on the market. Is there anything that the county or anybody's working on for that gap? Because the need's now, not 2 years from now. It could be still 2 years from now, but what are we doing in the meantime?
We've done a lot of work ahead of time, including working with all the attorneys to make sure this isn't challenged, it's ready to go. Hopefully, if it gets approved by August. We've been working with developers, we've been identifying these sites, but all we can do in the meantime is the best we can and try to get the funds, all the funds that we can from SHIP, and talk to developers and see. The president of our board is a developer. He includes workforce housing in every single complex he builds, even though he doesn't have to, because it's the right thing to do. So we're trying to get more Jack Weirs in the community and more developers thinking along those lines that this is good for our business, because we are not going to be able to build these more expensive houses if we can't provide basic services. And I'm telling you, it is hitting. When I try to go to my CVS on numerous occasions, a 24-hour CVS is closed in the middle of the day. And we're going to start seeing that all over. When you go into a restaurant, that whole section is closed because they don't have the staff. So, as I said, not perfect, but we're doing everything we can to expedite this and make sure that we are going to hit the ground running with this, because we have had a lot of deals that haven't gone through for lack of that financing, right, especially right now.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming to speak to us tonight and educate the community on the housing bond. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy to do it.
Okay, moving on, agenda item 3, we have a proclamation proclaiming October as Disability Awareness Month. Want to read it, Lori?
Disability Employment Awareness Month. Whereas in 1988, Congress declared the month of October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month to recognize the contributions made by individuals with disabilities. Whereas a diverse workforce creates opportunity for growth and helps towards building a stronger economy for our city. And whereas our residents with disabilities deserve the right to live independently, enjoy self-determination, and be treated equally in the workforce. And whereas the ABLE Trust, also known as the Florida Endowment Foundation for Vocational Rehabilitation, has worked with employers and community organizations throughout the state to enable thousands of Florida's citizens with disabilities to enter the workforce. And whereas Florida's Division of Vocational Rehabilitation and Division of Blind Services within the Department of Education assists people with disabilities so they may become employed. And whereas these organizations have an overwhelming impact on the lives of many of Florida's citizens with disabilities by offering services including job placement assistance, training, support services, and job coaching. And whereas the Village of Tequesta provides successful jobs for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities with the goal of inclusion, acceptance, and opportunity for all. Whereas the Village of Tequesta joins the rest of Florida in recognizing the contributions of the 2.8 million Floridians with disabilities by celebrating October 2022 as Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Thank you, and I believe Leanne Rexford from ABLE Trust is here, so we just want to thank ABLE Trust for the work they do to help residents with disabilities enter the workforce. It's very important, and I'm glad we're able to recognize it this month. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4. It's a proclamation recognizing Florida City Government Week is October 17th through 23rd. And I don't believe there's anyone here to accept it, so we won't read it into the record tonight. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to communications from citizens. Lori, do you have any comment cards?
I don't have any for general comments.
Okay. All right, moving on to communications from council. Any council comments?
No, nothing from me tonight.
Just want to update you guys, the EAC has started looking at the streetscapes that were part of the master plan, or the charrette process with Treasure Coast, just to look at it from an environmental aspect. They are working on that to review it. And they also started the discussion reviewing the code regarding AstroTurf as yards and landscaping. They did not dive into details because they were missing a lot of answers to their questions. So they have been looking for the answers to those questions, and next meeting they will dive more in depth on that. The other thing I'd like to say to our village department, especially our Parks and Recs, it was very, very nice to have an event start up again, and we're getting back into that season where we're getting active and social, and it's good weather here and there. But it was super, super awesome because if you follow social media, there was a little girl who met another little girl at the park, and she asked her mommy, I want to hang out with my new friend. And they met each other at the Food Truck National Night Out, and that brought new friends together. So as a mom, that was very heartwarming. So I appreciate Greg and his team and Lieutenant Smolin and our chiefs for putting together all of the groups that came together with all the fun stuff and the alligator and all that awesome stuff. That was very much a great start to our season of events and outdoor living. So thank you.
Not much. I just wanted to, we were gone, my wife and I were gone to Ireland for 2 weeks, so we just got back. And if you haven't been to Ireland, God, it was stunningly beautiful. But I know that Pastor Paul and Chief Medina have been honored while we were gone, and we didn't get a chance to attend that, but I just wanted to convey my congratulations publicly for the hard work that they've done and for the recognition that they earned, and was very well deserved.
Yeah, just to recognize we're doing things locally, but we're also doing things across the state. We've sent a team over there to help when the Hurricane Ian, and so it's kind of neat that we're able to kind of spread our wings a little bit and help others. So.
Thank you. Everyone's covered what I wanted to comment on. And just, again, on the National Night Out, I think almost all of the staff participated. I mean, Marjorie was out, I mean, everyone was out there. So to all of our staff, all the departments, thank you. It was an amazing first event with the National Night Out and kicking off food trucks again. It's going to sound super cheesy, but it just brings so much joy to my heart just seeing the smiling faces and how much joy it brings to our residents. It was just a really fabulous night. So amazing work, staff. Thank you. Okay, moving on to standing reports. Keith.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Okay, next, Jeremy.
Just wanted to point out, you know, some of you guys have heard the federal government has authorized funding to states for IT, security, infrastructure. Brad is working on applying for that. There's still a lot of unanswered questions with that. There's, you know, but the deadline is the end of the month, so we will be applying for a program for that. And then, if I can, I'll just congratulate Miss Nilsa and NZ Consultants, 12 years with the Village as a contract. So just want to recognize her and the work that they do for the Village. They're very professional, try to really uphold the codes in our processes. So just want to recognize her. With that, that's my report.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Police Department.
Good evening, Council, Village Attorney, Manager, and City Clerk. Tonight, I'd just like to highlight a couple of things that we went over in our monthly calendar, monthly report that Chief Medina uploaded. This past month, as y'all read, Thomas Drell and Jerry Lynn Palmieri went to Northport to help with the relief efforts of Hurricane Ian. While they were there helping with the relief efforts, we had several compliments come in about their work ethics and how they were helping everyone over there. We're very proud of them going over there. Last night, our Tequesta Resident Action Committee met, and we put the members through our VR training. I believe they all enjoyed it and came to understand why that training is so important to us. And I have to say, Mr. Bradford was very good at it. He had very good command presence and gave very clear and directions to the suspect in the training. So Tuesday, Lori, Chief Medina, and Lieutenant Smolin also went to Fort Myers to drop off donations for the hurricane relief effort. I don't think they would pat themselves on the back, but they did a very good job of raising donations, and we appreciate the donations that the residents gave for the relief effort. So without all the donations, that effort would not have been as successful. Also, the final thing I would like to highlight is, once again, National Night Out was last Friday night, and everyone's support from the council to the residents makes it as successful as it is. Without everyone's support, we would not be able to do what we're able to do. Greg also does I don't see Greg here. Greg does a wonderful job at the park. The park looked wonderful. Everything was super clean, set up wonderful. So I would also like to thank Greg and our officers who attended that and helped out with it and made everything successful. So that's all I have right now.
If I may add to his, I believe they're working on another trip out there in conjunction with Jupiter Inlet Colony, which I think Mayor Dan is here, but I think they're in the early processes of getting more donations, which I know we have, and so we do have another effort. And then the other thing is our bike, our motorcycle that council approved is in, and I think it will be going into operation soon. So
very much.
Any comments or questions from council?
My only question regarding donations to the Ian survivors, who are we dropping them off to? Do we have a personal contact, or we just give them to a big organization like Red Cross?
Probably to the Red Cross.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Salvation Army. It was red.
It was
I just drove.
I saw you drove the truck. Smart choice. That's it. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, fire department.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, and our village clerk. I'm going to try to hit the highlights too, because I know we've got a lot on the agenda tonight. As you can see, we attended our normal round of meetings. The month was interrupted, of course, by the visit from our friend Hurricane Ian there. We, of course, learned a lot from Hurricane Ian, and I'm sure we can talk about that later. We did declare an emergency. That was done on September 27th at 16:10 hours after consulting with the mayor and the village manager. We activated our EOC to a level 2, so that brought in partial staffing. We did, of course, upgrade in the fire department. I know the police department upgraded a little bit, and we made some preparations. The storm coming into the west coast and not the east coast, of course, makes that a little bit different of a scenario for us. So we treated it as such. We discontinued the emergency at 19:30 hours or 7:30 p.m. the following day. So that put me back 3 or 4 days just in preparing for everything else that we do. But nonetheless, we've had a good month. We got our teams out for 3 days of water rescue training. That was at the beginning of the month. That was the 6th, 7th, and 8th. We did attend the quarterly rapid intervention team training. That was September 1st, September 12th, and September 14th. I do note on this report I have 3 personnel out on leave. That was correct as of the writing of the report. We're down to 2 personnel on leave. I did have one of them return to duty. On September 11th, of course, we had our 9/11 Remember It ceremony. I believe that was well attended, and I appreciate all the support that we received from council and the community in coming out and letting us remember that day. Coming up, we of course continue to monitor the tropics, and we're going to continue to do that obviously throughout hurricane season. We do have training lined up for our paramedics with advanced cardiac life support. In fact, most of them have already been through the training. We do have ongoing training for water rescue and ongoing training with quarterly training drills with both Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, and we're hoping this time Martin County Fire Rescue as well. That'll help tie in everything that we want to do with response as we get closer to this US 1 bridge closure. Future activities, as you can tell, obviously we did attend National Night Out, and again it was a great opening event for the year. We're planning to attend Firefest on Saturday. That's up at JD State Park. We have a couple of other events with Halloween coming here at the end of the month. We've got our boot drive, and of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we are closing in on the Tequesta Chili Cook-Off. That, of course, will be on Saturday the 12th from 2 to 6 at Paradise Park. We hope to see everybody out there. And that's, of course, is a huge fundraiser, but more importantly, it's just a good time. It's a great community event. We really want to see everybody out there again. And I believe that will conclude my report unless there are some questions.
Council comments or questions?
No, you guys have been busy. We've had a few fires.
We've had a couple of fires recently, at least one fairly significant car accident. And of course, if you missed this afternoon, we had a very significant rain event that both police and fire and public works, and I think just about everybody that works here was pretty busy with. So.
But I was going to thank you guys, because I know when Papa Chuli's went up, you guys were able to assist and be a part of that relationship and responding and getting that out before it really destroyed the building. And that car accident, I was going to ask you, you know, that's people in our community, you know, are they okay?
Well, of course, I can't discuss patient conditions, but I will say that the fact that they were transported priority 3 into Jupiter is a good sign.
Okay, well, I'm glad you guys were able to get there and service them. And thank you.
Just a quick question, because
Shoot.
I know we were talking about this after Hurricane Ian, because everyone saw what happened to the fire station in Naples, and then the event today, see how fast it can flood. And I believe, are you guys working on or have a plan of staging trucks and other essential equipment in other places in case, our fire department or public safety building comes underwater?
Yeah, so of course, anytime there's an event like Hurricane Ian, we study the response of other agencies. And of course, when you watch a video, it shows 3 or 4 feet of water inside a bay. The first thought is why didn't you move the trucks out? So yeah, that's an obvious question. I can't speak to why they did or didn't do what they did. I do suspect that's a low-lying area there with a station that's low to the water. Our position is a little bit different. We are 17.5 feet above sea level at our fire station. So it would take a significant storm surge for it to affect fire trucks. That said, of course, we're looking at that. We used to have a plan, if I go back in history here, before that station was built, to move our personnel and equipment out of harm's way, anything above Category 3. When the station was built and given the height of it, that plan faded away. However, I do prefer to have tools in the toolbox, so to speak. So we are reaching out, and we're going to try to reestablish some contact with other fire departments within an hour or so, hour maybe 2 at the most, of Tequesta, where we could move equipment in either direction. So yes, we are looking at it.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's
That's
it.
it?
Yep. All right, next, moving on to utilities.
So Ms. Craig is out of town. She had a prior engagement before she was employed here. You guys have the report. If there's any questions that you have, I can give it a shot. I've also asked Mr. Nate to join us in case there were some additional questions.
I do have one question, if you don't mind. Sure. I know that I saw in Mr. Allen's report that there is getting a new or lab up and running to do internal testing. Can you tell me about that?
Well, we have our conventional lab where we do our required wet chemistry. The lab was previously certified by the state and the NELAC Association to do our own bacteriologicals in-house. I think it was prior to me getting here, they lost the certification. It was just because of the turnover of staff. So I think we're right to the point where we're going to have an audit done so we can pass the state certification and do it in-house. And it's sort of a win-win thing for us all the way around, because then we don't have to use a contracted lab in Jupiter, and then which will help us get our boil water notices cleared quicker, and we don't have to worry about weekends and holidays and extending that inconvenience to the customers longer, so we can do that quickly in-house. So,
would this in-house testing replace kind of like I'm assuming maybe a daily, weekly, monthly test as required by state or anything that might be done by a third party?
No, we have to do it regardless, like 30 to 35 bacteriologicals a month anyway. So they have to be done whether we do them in-house or pay a contracted lab to do it.
What I'm getting at is, will this replace any other third-party testing? Will there be any other third-party testing going on once this is certified?
Well, no, this only for bacteriologicals, we're going to do that. Everything else that we can't do in-house will still go out to Jupiter Environmental.
Okay, so we are still using
third-party testing? Yeah, we have to do that. It's just...
Good. I just want to make sure we're
it's
doing
like very expensive to do, the required tests for metals and VOCs and things like that.
Okay, perfect.
So.
All right, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, moving on to the regular agenda, old business, item number 15, approve work authorization, village-wide undergrounding feasibility assessment for Kimley Horn.
So this is a conversation council's had for, I guess, many months. At the previous August 1st council workshop, the council did hear a presentation at FP&L. On August 29th, council directed staff to work with Kimley Horn, produce an agreement with them to perform a feasibility study for undergrounding for the village. So that's what you have in front of you here, is a work authorization to begin that work. We have budgeted this item. I have asked Kimberly Horn to join us tonight if there's any additional questions that you guys may have prior to the agreement being formalized.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Like the manager said, we've been talking about this for months. I have nothing else to ask or add.
Yeah, same.
There was just two things brought up last meeting I want to make sure are covered because the proposal wasn't changed. That a high-level phasing plan will be included and how to maybe handle the unincorporated areas. And then a kind of a average of a homeowner cost conversion if they need to. Are those going to be included?
Good evening, Kevin Shannon, Kimberly Horn and Associates. As far as a high-level phasing plan, what we can do within the feasibility study is provide a general number of phases that we would expect, but to come up with the map would be more of a second step for a master plan to really draw the lines as to where those phases would actually be. But high-level numbers of phases to help with an anticipated schedule is something that we could do within this. With regards to the unincorporated areas, yes, when we look at the area, we will separate out things that are unincorporated versus things that are in the village so that you can get an idea, not just for cost, but also if you didn't do certain areas that were unincorporated, how would that impact reliability? We'll have a narrative on that within the feasibility study. As far as cost per property owner, that's not part of this. Really, you need to have an assessment methodology consultant come in and have the council adopt an assessment methodology because it's not a linear thing. There's a lot of different ways to slice that, and there's a lot that goes into it. So this is more of a first step, get some high-level costs.
Maybe, I want to make sure you understand my question. We spoke about last time, if a homeowner needs to bring anything in their specific house up to code.
Oh, yeah, oh, that, okay, yeah, that we can talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, as far as like general ranges of what it would take if they had some sort of non-compliant service entrance, which is pretty rare in our experience. But that, yeah, absolutely, we can have a discussion on that. Yeah, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about that methodology.
Yeah, I think it's just helpful to have, if we do decide to continue to move forward, I think it's good for us to have, because people might ask that question.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, and then just some food for thought for council. This is straight from FPL's website too. So they restored power pretty fast after the hurricane, and they had no significant, and this is because of all the storm hardening they've been doing for years. They had no significant structural damage to any of the power plants, and they did not lose a single transmission structure during the hurricane. So food for thought as we do consider. They do also list the benefits of the underground areas too. So it is a benefit, but I did just want to throw that out there that the storm hardening they are doing to date was really successful.
Mayor, if I may, a direct quote on the Saturday after the storm passing from Eric Szilagyi, the CEO of FPL. He said that the undergrounded areas that they had performed 5 to 9 times better than their overhead. And they were very happy with the hardening, like you mentioned how it performed. Whereas in past hurricanes, they'd lost portions of the transmission system, and they lost none of it this time. So the investment's really been paying off.
Yep. So I just want to throw that out there, keep in the back of our minds. Okay. Is there any more council comments or questions? Any public comment? No. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to new business. Item number 16, site plan application for 300 Beach Road. Nelsa?
Mayor, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, if I can take care of the preliminary matters. Agenda item 16, the site plan review for 300 Beach Road is a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means the council will be basing its decision on the testimony that's presented at this hearing as well as other evidence in the record. If you're going to be testifying and presenting verbal evidence to the council, your testimony needs to be sworn. You're all aware of the process and are already standing with your hands raised. Let me swear you all in. Do each of you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can all have a seat. I need to come back to council. If any council members have had any ex parte discussions, done site visits, or that sort of thing, those items would need to be disclosed for the record at this time.
And this is for 300 Beach Road, correct?
Correct, 300 Beach Road.
I've been to the site.
And I've had multiple conversations with Mr. Gentile and Mr. Perko, but no site visit.
I visited the site.
Okay. Nothing from Councilman Johnson? Okay, thank you, Council. Then, Mayor, we can proceed with this item.
Thank you. Elsa?
Yes, good evening. Madam Mayor, council members. The application in front of you is from 300 Beach Road Developer LLC for a site plan review to build a 10-story, 26-unit multifamily, 178,320 square feet condominium building, including 1 monument sign, 3 swimming pools, and a landscaping plan. As you recall, the applicant was to be heard August 11th. At the time, the applicant requested to be postponed. So, and there was, later on, there was on September 8th, the applicant was in front of council for a conceptual presentation. So the subject meeting now is the hearing is for the final approval of this site plan application. Just to put it into the records, this application was reviewed by the Development Review Committee, which includes, I just want to read it into the records, community development, law enforcement, landscaping, building, fire safety, the water department, civil, and traffic engineering. So the approval is for the reviews and approval is for the site plan. If the project is approved tonight, the applicant will come to request a building permit, and at that time, further reviews will be developed by the fire department, by the building department. So this is for a site plan. Also, I would like to point it out that this application was heard by the Planning and Zoning Board on July 21, 2022, and was recommended approval. As part of the recommendation, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended that the applicant, a condition of approval, that the applicant shall provide the village with a letter of map revisions or LOMAR issued by FEMA for the site prior to applying for a building permit. That's the condition of approval for this development. And the applicant is here and they have a presentation. Sarah?
Good evening, council members. For the record, I'm George Gentile, president of 2GHO. I'm sure you know who I am. A little hobbly this evening. It did take me 45 minutes to get here from Jupiter on US 1, just to let you know, village manager. But thank you. We essentially went over this presentation at the last meeting because we came back to you with a conceptual review of modifications after having a meeting with your staff to modify the architecture, to bring some of the elements that you are looking to incorporate into this area. And we had some great conversation with you all at the meeting, and I think that it was good. We have made those changes to your package for this approval. And we'll go over them. I have our consultants here, our team here, our landscape architect, our civil engineer, so if we can answer any other questions that we need to. I'm going to go through this quickly, not that I want to, but you have seen it. I know that one of the council members was not here, but we'll go through it so that there's a complete understanding. And maybe I'll get this to work. There we go. So we're requesting, as Nilsa indicated, by the Fontainebleau Development, approval for the site plan tonight for this project. And this property currently has 27 units on it, and the developer is proposing one less. We're down to 26 units on this project. Fontainebleau Development, as we indicated to you earlier, they have done a tremendous amount of activity in this area, in the entire Southeast Florida area, and with a great vision for projects, and some of their residential units are award-winning units that they've done. The development team's philosophy focuses on location, innovation design, forward-thinking amenities, and state-of-the-art technologies for their project and their construction. Oops. There we go. Oops, I went too far, I'm sorry. They have also joined with Mr. Perko, who you all know very well, who's one of our North County residents in this area and has been involved with the other projects. But this is the site. It's the Island House is on the north side, the Regency condominiums is on the south side. The Ocean Towers is farther south. You can see the Beach Road access across the Intercoastal Waterway. This project is approximately, the buildings that's there now is in their 50-year age bracket, and as I know that you had conversations with Representative Snyder at the last meeting, all of the condominiums in this area that are that have ages will need to be looked at for inspections. We think that this is going to be a great asset because we'll be meeting all the current building codes that are necessary. These are the projects across the street. This is in an area of multiple condominium projects. The site plan, you saw this at the last meeting. This is the floor plate site where we enter. We have a loop driveway coming in off of Beach Road. We have amenity areas on the top area, and we have amenity areas also on the beach side. We have met all of the land development regulations, as Nilsa indicated, for the entire project. We're not asking for any waivers. We're not asking for anything other than the permitted use on the property. The pink areas are the deck areas above the parking, which is also secluded inside the building. We do have guest spaces on the outside that are located both on the north side and the south side. Oops. We are in the medium density residential. It's R3. It's 12 units per acre. We're proposing 11.5. As I said, the other project had 27 units, which met the full 12. We meet the 101 foot above the crest of the dune. We're providing 49.1% open space, and your lot, which is 30% required, and we're at 34.9% in lot coverage, which is exceeding your lot coverage. We're providing 57 spaces where your code on this project requires 52. We meet the code provisions of your R3. We meet the density. The unit sizes are going to range between 3,915 square feet and 5,605 square feet. There'll be 3 penthouse units and the oceanfront roof terraces with oceanfront roof terraces, and the units feature ceiling to floor glass, and it meets really the trend in architectural fenestrations as we see today that is very, very popular. We've met all your landscape. It's a coastal hammock environment. I mean, this is a beach environment. We have to make sure that the plants will survive the high wind and salt spray. We've worked with your landscape architect, and I think they've developed a great palette, and I think it's going to be a great add to the project. There's a lot of hardscape and terrace areas featuring zero-edge swimming pool, which is also very nice on this project. There's a provisions for a non-covered summer kitchen for the residents of the project. I may need you to help. Somebody help. Okay, there we go. Building renderings. This is the view looking west from the ocean. It has a very nice profile to the beach. Again, we think it will be a great asset both for this area and also for the residents who will be here. That'll be Tequesta residents. This is a view looking southwest. It's just giving you another perspective of the building in this location and its context to the ocean. And then I think yep. Okay. Did I go too far? No, that's it. We are 10 stories. We meet all the requirements. We're not requesting any variances. The conceptual design is exactly what we've provided here. It provides for a movement in the balconies and terraces so that the building comes forward and back in several locations. I do have the architect here if you need any additional comments on it. Your planning board gave us a unanimous recommendation for approval in July, there are no impacts to the level of service to the village or to the county. We did provide we gave you all a TPS letter from Palm Beach County. We meet the traffic requirements. And we think it's very compatible to the community, compatible to the surrounding area. We look forward to getting this started right away. There was a couple of questions. We have engaged, redone our agreement with Palm Beach County for the construction parking. We indicated that to you earlier, and then we'll make any other provisions that are necessary to make sure that it doesn't impact anybody in this area. In regards to, there was a comment regarding guest parking. We have the parkings that is outside that we've provided above the parking code, but management on site will also manage that because we anticipate, we know we will have seasonal residents, we'll have people that are not here, and they will work out any arrangement they need to do with guest parking on site in the building. So we don't see a problem at all. There will not, we know we will not have anybody parking out on Beach Road. Okay, so with that, I will be glad to answer any questions, and we appreciate your review tonight. And again, this is the second time you've seen it. So okay, thank you.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Any council comments or questions?
So I would like to thank you and the team for coming in for conceptual and discussing openly with council for the project design for all aspects, including environmental aspects. I did miss that meeting last time, and I did follow up with the video of the meeting, and I was in support of everything that council brought up, which is why I didn't bombard you with more via email, because I think they did a great job covering all aspects.
Thank you.
Aaron, any comments?
No comments.
I'm good.
Yep, I see you have a bunch, so we'll start.
My screen. No, I don't have a bunch, just a couple. So, were any changes made after the conceptual presentation? I didn't really notice many changes.
The changes we made were mainly in architecture. I do have Michael Wallace here from Swedwell Architects. He'd be glad to go over the building context of what we did change if you would like him to.
Did anything change from what we saw at the conceptual meeting?
No, I believe that everything is, we put the package together so that it was pretty much where we were able to go with the building after having a meeting with your staff.
Yeah, because I was like, there was comments taken that made from public and council, and nothing was really taken in consideration because this is exactly what we saw at the conceptual meeting.
That's correct.
So, are you guys undergrounding the overhead lines that are in front of the property?
Yes.
Okay. Parking concern is mine. I brought that up. I know some residents of the area brought that up because it is a big problem over there now. I hear what you're saying, that it'll be managed, and maybe this might be more of a Keith or Nilsa question. Is there any kind of condition of approval that if it becomes a problem down the road that they have to come back and correct it? Or is that not something we can ask for?
In terms of the parking during construction, or?
No, after construction is complete.
Well, the applicant is required to meet village code on off-street parking. That's really what is required of the applicant. If parking becomes an issue in the future and the applicant wanted to come back and ask for the configuration to be changed, that would be a site plan modification, which would have to go through the development process. But I'm not aware of anything that would oblige them to do anything more than what the current code requires.
And nothing we can do in conditional approval. And I do ask, because we do have other communities in this area that have this problem, cars are getting towed, residents are upset, so we have seen this happen, you know, post, construction in our area.
We really feel that the level in this condominium building with just 26 units is not going to be a problem. The current project meets the code as well for parking. We don't think that this will be a problem. We actually think that we will be able to manage it even better, just because of the nature of how these type of condominiums are used. And we think that there'll be seasonal people, there'll be vacant parcels, parking underneath, and they can manage it in the parking garage very effectively. So that's what we think, so.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
The water main, I'm not clear on that. There was a letter from our utility department saying that the existing 8-inch water main on Beach Road would be required to be upsized to a 10-inch water main to meet the fire flow demand for the property. And the comment was marked as acknowledged, but the civil drawings do not show a 10-inch water main. Can someone just explain that? I just want to make sure we're covered there.
Would you like to address that? I'll have our engineer who's designing that system, Mark Williams from Cashavars.
Good evening, I'm Mark Williams with Cashavars, we're the civils. The village has a water main upgrade project underway now. I think the design is completed that Kimley Horn has done. And they have actually provided stubs on that project to our site. So we've already coordinated that. Okay. So that plan is in place with regards to the timing. We anticipate it being in place and those stubs provided prior to our needing them. So that project should happen within the next year. If not, then we'll have to accommodate the stubs ourselves. But for all intents and purposes, and coordinating with Marjorie and Tom over at Kimley Horn, it's already been coordinated and set up, and the upgraded line size has already been programmed into the future improvements. So I don't know what else we could do at this point.
Okay, and Jeremy, that tracking with everything you understand?
Yeah, that's I believe it's on our capital improvement plan for this coming year for the water that we are doing the, I'm not good with this, the south side of Beach Road. We are replacing a line. If you remember, a year ago we did the north side of Beach Road. So this is an extension of that. So that is part of it. I think there's an agreement, or will be an agreement in place for that work.
Yeah, there'll be some cost sharing between the developer and the town, or the village, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just two more, and I think Mr. Cohen commented on this. Temp erosion and sediment control has not been great at Seaglass. So I know there is a concern. There's actually people across the street now. So I don't know if it's going to be the same contractor, same developer. So we just need to make sure you guys are doing a better job on that.
We acknowledged that at the last meeting, and it will be worked out with your staff in the building department, and we will make sure that it's done as best management practices that we can do in that area. So,
okay.
And I think Mr. Cohen did make that comment at the last meeting.
Just want to make sure it's covered.
Yep.
All right, that is all my comments.
Thank you.
All right, any other council questions or comments?
I do. So before any motion is made, Nielsa mentioned that P&Z they approved with asking for something for FEMA. Can you repeat that? And my legal question is, do we need to add that to our motion to get it counted? Okay.
Yes, the recommended condition of approval from the Planning and Zoning Board is as follows. The applicant shall provide the village with a letter of map revision, LOMAR, issued by FEMA for the site prior to applying for a building permit. We have addressed this with the applicant, and they agreed to this condition of approval, and yes, this should be part of the development order, please.
Yes, it's the same as we did on Seaglass, and of course, your very great building official would never let us start anything out there without that letter being provided to you. So we have no problem with that as a condition of approval. Absolutely not. So, okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll open up to public comment. Any public comment tonight? Mayor Dan?
Yeah.
I have a question. How many underground parking is available for tenants or guests? I understand the guest parking is on the platform. How many are below the building?
Well, it's the first floor of the, I'm sorry, Mayor. The first floor of the building has parking underneath that area, and there is the required 52 parking spaces there. And there's 5 additional spaces on the outside of the building.
So there's 5 spaces for guests?
Right now, there is 5 spaces for guests outside the parking area of the building.
Okay, and there's no guest parking underneath unless somebody's out of town?
My comment is that management in the building, who's there all the time, will manage that for the unit owners and provide ample parking, whether it's outside or inside the building, for any guests.
So people were wondering why I'm here.
Mayor Dan, can you come up to the podium, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor Abbey sent me a text, why are you here? I'm here because the people who live across the street, who for whatever reason are up in Tallahassee, who live in the building across the street, are concerned about the building and, will they still have access to the beach? I assured them they would, and would they be able to see the beach? Yeah, I don't know about that, but they were concerned about parking and where people who are visiting the condo would park. I'm not here to cause trouble. I live in a different area, close by, but in a different area. So you're telling me that there are 5 spaces for guests to park? Because everybody who has a condo there, 27 people, they each get 2 spots, and there's 5 other spots. So if everybody happens to be in town in the wintertime, you got 5 spaces for people to park, correct? I'm not here to cause trouble, because I like you, George, but 5 spots?
Well, first of all, as was indicated, we do meet the code.
I get that.
Okay, and we are exceeding the code, actually, at this point in time. But we feel very comfortable that, and management is committing to managing the parking so that it will not be a problem. And just so that they also know, the beach access that is on the next site to the south will be remained as the beach access. It's a recorded easement and is being incorporated into the plans. So there will be no issue with that.
Got it, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, any other public comment? There's one more.
Harold Taylor, 13 Chapel Court. A couple of months ago, when this item first came up, I offered a suggestion. Considering the collapse of that apartment building or condo building down in South Florida a year ago, there's a way to make the building more waterproof. You add Zypex. It's a product made in Vancouver, British Columbia. Cemex does stock it, so it is available in South Florida. I would suggest that a developer consider using that on any exposed outside concrete. It works.
Thank you.
I just talked with our architect. They use it on a lot on all these types of buildings, and it will be used in this building as well. So I didn't know that. I don't do buildings. Anyway, and I do have my sneakers on tonight just for Keith, but it's really because I have a problem with the foot right now. So.
All right, any other
Thank you.
public comment? Nope, can I get a motion?
You want to make a motion?
I'll do it. I'll make a motion for approval pending that the applicant provide the village with a letter of map revision, an LOMR, issued by FEMA for the site prior to applying for a building permit.
And I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving
Thank you.
on. Agenda item 17, a conceptual presentation by 2GHO for a mixed-use development on 1 Main Street. Melissa?
Yes.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, council members. The Village of Tequesta codes include a section that allows developers to do a conceptual presentation. Just to clarify, the conceptual presentation does not include reviews by the Development Review Committee. So basically, the applicant arrives, they provide to the council the rendering, site plans, and they also are looking for the council feedback. Again, the Development Review Committee has not reviewed this application. Thank you.
And then real quick, Keith, is there anything else you want to chime in on this process?
Yes, Mayor. Conceptual presentation is not a quasi-judicial proceeding, and no action shall be taken by the Village Council beyond discussion with the applicant. Neither the outcome of this conceptual presentation nor any comments made during this conceptual presentation by any Village Council member or village staff is a guarantee or assurance in any way of the final action that may be taken by the Village Council pursuant to a formal application for site plan review as required by our code.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. All right, George, you're up again.
Again, council members, thank you for allowing us to do a conceptual. And in my statement to you a number of months ago, I said that anything we work on here is coming here first for a conceptual so that we can actually get a dialogue going on what the issues are and where we need to concentrate on. But I appreciate the opportunity here, and I'm going to try to move the slides myself and see if it works. There we go. Okay, so this applicant is FPT Tequesta Property Owners LLC. For the record, George Gentile, president of 2GHO Inc., landscape architects, planners, environmental consultants. And this is a joint venture between the Perco Development Companies, who you know, we just saw another project that Mr. Perco's involved, but it also includes the Frankel Companies. We have been working with the Frankel Companies for a long time. They're phenomenal developers. They've been in the north end of the county for a number of years. And I'm going to show you a couple things that they're doing, but I just want to know they know the local knowledge. They're experts in marketing and housing and development, and I think we're excited to be doing another project with this team as well as with Mr. Frankel. Mr. Perco has been here for 23 years. He has done a number of projects, which we know if you see at the bottom, Sea Glass Savoy, that we are bringing you the 250 Beach Road project, which you saw the conceptual on that last time. And we're glad that he's involved, and he started this process, and he has a real sense for the urban residents on this project, and I think he's added a tremendous asset to the design. Let me go on to the next. As we just saw, the Savoy project is the project that, and the Sea Glass project. Frankel Enterprises, they've been around since 1936. They are one of the leading real estate developers here in South Florida. Tommy Frankel's been president of Frankel Development since 2001, has been involved in development in many high-profile properties, and probably the one that you most know is the Admiral's Cove project. And you'll see a couple of other ones that they've done. He's been a resident here for 38 years, and we're glad to be working on another project. We've done a number of projects with Mr. Frankel in the north end of the county. I'm going to buy you all a new one. There we go. Let me just go back one if I could. Some of the projects, we said Admiral's Cove, Valencia at Abacoa, San Michelle, 61 custom estate homes. The Azure condominium, which is a very successful one in the gardens at the Donald Ross Road Bridge area. And then, of course, the last one, Ocean One condominiums, which he just did in Juno Beach, was a tremendous success in that development. And these are some of the projects that he has done and developed in the area. Azuro's in the upper right-hand corner. And the Juno 1, which is almost completed in Juno, which are duplexes. He did a tremendous job with those, and they were actually sold within 3 months in that area. Again, we're excited to have him on the team on this project. Oh, there we go. I'm going to go through these. Again, Admiral's Cove, that's the marina, and then the front aspect of the project.
Just point at me and I'll click it.
Okay, if you would click it.
It'll
Thank you,
look
sir.
really smooth when we
Yeah,
do
I
that.
think you can make it a lot easier for me. Okay, so let's talk about Paradise Park. Okay, we've been doing concepts. You're going to see a couple of other concepts in here, but I really think that we got the development team to look at a well-being located in the heart, a well-being project being in the heart of the village of Tequesta. It's set around a park green or a civic space, we might call it. We're actually working on a civic space in a project down in a redevelopment project in North Palm. I think it makes very much sense to include those in these urban developments. These will be apartments that will be held by the development team. They are rentals, but they are market rentals. That's what they're proposing. They believe that the demographics of this village are suited for this community, and they think the current market is really looking for it. The urban design, the urbanism is a design movement, so everybody knows, that promotes environmentally friendly habitats, creates walkability, and you have a lot of commercial right in this area for walkability that we need to promote walkability from this type of a project, and we think it's going to be a success. Village manager, thank you. Do I have to pay for this? No, okay. Anyway, so here's your project site, and we've incorporated with consent of, at this point, which we have to bring to you their consents as we go through this, the properties that you see. It includes the Tequesta Corporate Center, and it includes 1 Main Street, and of course the proposed park site and the parking lot area that's in that front area. Other sites around us include the across the village, Tequesta Drive, our restaurants, bank. There's a residential project there, but as we get towards US 1, more commercial, Bank of America, CVS, Tequesta Shops as we get across. And then to the south, we also have commercial and small shops in that area, which I think will benefit tremendously from a residential project on this site. And I think it's a mixed-use project, and I'm going to show you that. Village manager? Thank you. So what was the design inspiration? Well, we met with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council right after their presentation to you. We've actually had a number of meetings with them. And if you look at this plan, and when we show you what we've done, while it doesn't match it exactly, and nobody ever does that, it does meet really the visioning that they provided you in their in your visioning planning that you've had with them. And I think you can see the bank building and their project to the bottom of the page. You can see the development parcels of housing and residential in those areas. You see a civic site plaza area in the front on Tequesta Drive. So I think we've kind of really took this at a model. And when I show you the plan now, we're going to go to the site plan, you'll see what I'm talking about. So Paradise Park includes the bank building that's already existing, and then we have components that include the residential buildings that you see on the southern portion. They're separated by a drive that goes through with parking. There's also parking in front of the 1 Main Street building. And that little building that you see there is a restaurant on the green. And that is going to provide for a really unique feature to have a restaurant outdoor seating on a public civic site. And the public is going to be able to go there and sit outside. They can have, there'll be activities in the park, and a very nice environment for a small, really boutique type restaurant in that area. You can see the amenity area and the residential units that are the U-shaped one, and then the one to the southeast portion of the project. We've also provided some on-street parking on Bridge Road that we think will also add to the public parking in the area. which is also a recommendation from Treasure Coast to provide that. And we think that this is going to be a very, very unique development that will actually really revitalize the commercial area in and around the area and allow people to walk to and from. We're proposing right now 106 apartments. We are meeting the requirements of your mixed-use code, and I'm going to go over a few of the design elements of those in a minute. And we are at your density of 18 units per acre for the project site. And yes, we are using the whole site. It's a mixed-use development, and that's very typical. We are going to request that we take out, we have you abandon the Main Street drive that goes through. However, we will maintain a public easement in perpetuity so that people will still be able to drive. We're looking at some accents that we might do on some of the roadways going through there to make that really a viable element going through the site. And you'll still go from Tequesta Drive, and you'll go all the way down to Bridge Road as a public pass-through to that area as you have now. If you abandon it, we feel pretty comfortable that you're going to get the public access through there without the cost of maintaining it and the other issues that you deal with as a public agency with those roadways. And that road, I can tell you, if you go out there, it really could use an improvement. So it's been there for quite some time. Not the village manager or the department's problems, but it's another cost factor. So if you'll go ahead, I'll go. Okay. So again, 106 units. There's already existing 3,700 plus square feet of retail. We have the 29,000 square foot of office. We're looking at the indoor fitness is there at 8,500 square feet. There's a private school upstairs, 5,660 square feet. The new restaurant is about 4,054 square feet, and the park that you see there is a little over a half acre. We did the shared parking ratio on this, and we were required per the shared parking, and I think we used the ULI, Troy, on this one. Yes, ULI recommended one. We're required 295 spaces, and we're showing 338 spaces on the site that will be shared. So it more than satisfies, we think, the parking, particularly when you're trying to propose a project that has walkability. Next slide. So through the property assemblage, as I said, we accumulated 5.89 acres of developed area, and the density is based on that at 18 units per acre, which is allowed in your mixed use slide. The focus is a contextual Florida coastal architecture. I'm not going to get into it. You can read it, but it's really a architectural theory that refers to designing structures in response to interpretation and the characteristics of the environment that we built in. If you go to the next slide, we'll start to see the architecture of the building. This is the going across a view from Tequesta Drive into the park site. You can see the restaurant to the left, the residential units. We're at the height that you have as your established height in this area. It's a 4-story building. It will be at the 50-foot height level, which is what your code, your mixed-use code has. Next slide. The concept allows the user to discover the place and connect to the local village community, walk to all the commercial, walk to the US 1, and we think the green park there right at Tequesta Drive gives it a great location for the entire community to be able to use, and a restaurant that they can run into and enjoy family dinners and small scale. You anticipate small scale concerts on the green and help the existing businesses around the area. This is the view from Bridge Road and Main Street as you go up to through the public access easement through the project. You can see the coastal architecture theme that we've chosen for this. We think it's very appropriate for this area. Next slide. Just wanted to make sure that we showed that we are meeting the height requirements, and we certainly are wanting to make sure that this meets all your requirements, and we're not asking the only ask we're having here is we would like to have the abandonment of Main Street and then provide it back for perpetual public easement, and that's really the only ask. We did look at other projects on this site. This was a townhouse I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we did look at a lot of things. This is a townhouse development that we looked at. You can go to the next slide with Main Street in. This is with part of Main Street out because just trying to get a unit count in here that made it viable for the financial aspects of the property. Next. And that's it. What I'd like to just make a very quick comment that in your design guidelines for the mixed-use area, we've just about hit every one of them with this project. This is a mixed use, promotes economic and social well-being. The streets serve the needs of the pedestrians for the area. We've provided walkways, interconnectivity to everywhere in that area, including getting people out to Tequesta Drive and onto US 1, as well as Bridge Road. We've provided the civic space in here to provide for other social activities with not only the residents here, but the residents throughout the village. We are, let's see here. We're providing still commercial on this site, as well as providing access to the other commercials for the development area. We think that we will be reducing the number of trips because these people will have accessibility to not only the commercial, but jobs also. There's a lot of jobs in the area that could be filled. A lot of the restaurants are struggling right now. There could be activities and abilities for people to do that. And then the internal circulation, we think, is also meets your mixed use. So I'll stop there, and I'll be glad to answer any questions, but we're here to hear your comments. So thank you very much for allowing me the time.
All right, thank you, George. Okay, council comments, questions?
No questions from me. Dana was here working with us from Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and spent a lot of time speaking with council and residents. And like you said, put together this great master plan, and you guys pretty much did exactly what they recommended for that area. And as far as a conceptual drawing, it's very nice. It looks very welcoming, and I mean, with this being just a conceptual presentation, I'll just say that it looks really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brandon?
Hi, George.
Hi.
That was a very great presentation. Thank you.
Good.
And thank you guys for coming in for conceptual. Again, I really think this is important to build not just the relationship between a municipality and a developer, but for the voice of the residents to have an open dialogue. Okay, so first, now you've described the restaurant area with the green space and that the public would be able to come on to that part of the property.
The public's going to be able to come on through the entire site, as well as the restaurant will be open to the public, and the green space is going to be a public civic space.
Great. So I actually am very intrigued by this concept. For me, it's bringing not only use to the green space that I think from this design layout, you're trying to kind of give Tequesta a green space park area, since we obviously used to have park space there. I think the outdoor concept of a restaurant, that it could balance with the other businesses that are in the current buildings, so they don't really compete necessarily. My concern is, and this would be something more in-depth we could get in later with council, I would much rather, instead of doing a handshake agreement, I'd rather have in writing somewhere that the public has full access to that green area, just to prevent the future of the property owner ever deciding to fence it off or even deciding to rebuild all of a sudden. And again, that's a totally more in-depth conversation. Design aspect of the apartment building side, thank you. I appreciate all the different architectural elements, the textures, the lines, the color scheme is great. The different parts, the gables on the roof line instead of one straight flat roof, I appreciate that. It is warm and welcoming if you're going to live there. My biggest concern is the density. It's not the height. I am very aware that our code does allow up to 50 feet. However, after the memo we received that was sent by you with the answer to yes, we are pulling, and you just confirmed it in this presentation, we are pulling the bank building on the corner as well as the current building and asking for an abandonment of the road to add density. I can't sleep at night with that. So that's gonna be a big issue for me. I'd rather look at using what the acres are for the parcels and build with that. The 18 dwelling units per the size that fits there. The abandonment, I think, is a further conversation with council because we would be choosing to abandon something we own. And again, I can express to my council members, my hesitancy on that would be, what would the community be getting back other than being able to drive through it? You guys be getting more density to get something bigger out of your project. What would the residents really be getting other than driving through it?
Then we need to answer that question when we.
Yep, so
get
I'm
to that
just,
point. Thank
again,
you. That's good.
I always say we are all in the room. I like to put everything on the table,
Right.
so it's out there. What was I saying? Do you think that you will at some point need a special waiver or variance?
No, we were trying desperately not to request anything other than the abandonment.
Okay, so you're trying to avoid them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, you guys mentioned, we all know it's mixed use, and you kept kind of talking about walking to places. Where are people walking to? Because if the back buildings are all apartments, and you didn't mention once that there's stores or anything on the bottom, so where are people walking to other than the few businesses that are in the current building as well as the restaurant that would be there?
Well, you have all the businesses on US 1. You have the businesses that are across the street on Bridge Road. There are small shops there. There's other vendors in there. There's you also have commercial on Tequesta Drive in that area. I have actually been at on Cypress at a facility there that I was having a car repair done and walked all the way through here to go to CVS.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, if you create an environment where there's residents there that can get to things easier, and this is the center of that area, it's going to really, I think, revitalize your businesses in that area. And I think the residential component, and we'll talk about the density, but I think the residential component is really a key factor here in helping revitalize a lot of the things that you have going on around the area.
And I don't think anyone in the residence is gonna knock that you're trying to add some sort of housing. It's really just that the amount of it is really jammed in there of 106, because it's not just the size of the buildings. We're looking at the actual physical people who will be moving around, hustling, bustling, and using our shops and the cars and the roads and the schools and all that. So it's kind of a bigger picture of why are we not sticking to the code and building what actually is supposed to be on those parcels rather than pulling from nearby properties to get more. I mean, that's like me going to my neighbor saying, I'm gonna use your property to give myself a bigger house.
Okay.
So I just wanna really kind of look at the code and make sure we're following that. And then I'd like to get, not right this second, I don't need it, but I would like to have a clarification from maybe our team when they actually do go to review it, because I know that our team has not actually done a formal review. I would like to request a clarification of, it's possible that the total area that you guys have circled on the layout is 5.1816 acres, but you guys have in there in your proposal 5.89. So I want to make sure that we're all dealing with the correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other one I wanted to put on the record is the park space, again, it could be 0.53 acres, but you guys are labeling it as 0.57. So I just want to make sure that when it goes to review, that all these numbers are coming out correctly and the same.
Well, we certainly are gonna, we have surveys, and we will make sure that we have an overall survey that will
I think
provide
on
that.
both parts, our
Yes.
part and your part, I
Yes,
just want to make sure we're all on the same page and we're all working with the same numbers.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
George, good to see you again.
Yep.
You know, I've had an opportunity to talk to you about this project as well as Mr. Perko. And my bias, which I think everybody knows, is that this would be developed as parkland, but I agree then the area around it, Bridge Road, Tequesta Drive, at all, I think would be ripe for redevelopment. I think it's ripe for redevelopment under this plan as well, but I always thought maybe having the park as the central feature was going to be the thing that would really provide an added element to the community. Having said that, though, the park the area that's labeled as a park, my understanding is that the intent was to actually dedicate that to the village, to give it to the village. Is that still the intent?
I think what we want to do is talk about what's the best advantage for everybody for that. Okay? I will give you an example. And I don't know if you want to hear back from me tonight. Maybe I should just let you talk, and we'll have to address that. I think there's several options, and it's really what's an advantage to you all and the development.
Okay. And then the next thing, the question I have is when you look at making this all encompassing, we've kind of talked about what that legal structure might look like by bringing in the existing building on Main Street and bringing the old Citizens Bank building. You said you've had some conversations with both parties and they're open to it, but I know that depending on the nature of the legal structure, there's implications in terms of if one of those parties, if Mr. Perko and his group are not acquiring those properties at this point, there's implications in the future if either parcel were to be sold living under the umbrella of a joint venture. So I'm a little curious as to what kind of, are you looking to acquire those two properties? Are you looking to do this under a joint agreement? I'm a little curious.
I think this is going to be very similar to what we see in other areas. I know that you don't have that specifically, but a planned unit development where there are separate owners, but they have to adhere to an overall unity of title, and they have to adhere to HOA documents and overall POA documents for the entire project, and they're always in that project. They're not out of it. They might sell a building, but the building owner that takes over has to
be willing to,
they have to be disclosed, they'll have to provide, they have to be a part of the unity of the overall development. They're always a part of it, yes.
So at this juncture, because you said this was being put forth with the consent of those two parties, are they indicating a willingness to enter into that type of an agreement? I guess that's my question.
I'm hearing from the development team, because I don't get into the legal stuff. I like to practice law, but Keith doesn't like me to do that.
He says the same thing to me.
Mr. Perko has indicated that they have had conversations, and they right now are willing to do that. If they're not, then we have other issues to deal with when we come back to you. And again, that's why we're here for conceptual, and that's a good point.
And I would agree with Ms. Brandon. I mean, I'll compliment you on the design of the buildings themselves. I think they are warm. I think they are inviting. I do have some concern over the abandonment. I want to make sure that if we were to agree to that, then maybe that's where the park becomes dedicated. But as you said, we can explore that. But I want to make sure that the flow through in that area is clean and easy for people to traverse by vehicle. That they're not going to be, we're not going to have any issues, cars moving in and out. My only other concern is I know Treasure Coast Planning addressed this, but the parking along Bridge Road, I'd rather see that area landscaped. I don't know if that still gives you adequate parking, but it seems to me rather than having parking along that road, it'd be nice to have a nice landscape buffer between the roadway, sidewalk, and then the building itself. So that would be my one concern. I shouldn't say one. It is a concern with the conceptual plan at this point. So that's it for me.
Great.
To be honest with you, I don't really have much more to add than what has already been stated. I agree with the majority of the comments that have already been presented.
Thanks.
Yep, I kind of align a lot of what my concerns have been stated. I do want to say thank you for working with Treasure Coast Regional Planning and presenting something that aligns, and I do know you're never going to match exactly. Theirs is a concept, so is yours right now. So I do really appreciate you guys doing that. I appreciate the park that you've provided. I do, and you did bring this up, and changing the flow of Main Street, I'm not a fan of. Specifically, the reason I'm not is because I did like how Treasure Coast, the flow seemed to open up to Bridge Road a little bit more, and then as Frank said, there's a concept Bridge Road for, you know, making it more inviting, there's like, I think they did like a bioswale, you know, in the middle of the road. And that way it kind of invites those properties on the south end of Bridge Road a little bit more, because right now I feel like the way it looks on plan is it kind of cuts off, you know, the business on the south end. So I think to aid to your mixed use argument is that you should open up those businesses a little more, make it that whole area flow and be a little more inviting. I think that would be beneficial.
Okay.
And then I do, with the mixed use, you know, the purpose, the urban design principles, urban design objectives, I don't see how this is going to reduce the number and length of the automobile trips based on how it is now,
Okay.
knowing what the existing retail in the area is. Yes, you can walk to US 1, but on a very hot summer day, I could very well see people getting in their cars to drive to the plazas along US 1 and not walk. I probably would if it was 90-something degrees out. So please keep that in mind as you know, maybe consider bringing in some other mixed uses, and, you know, keep an eye on the density and all that good stuff everyone else has brought up. And then the roof height, I did have a question on that. This might be a little nitty gritty, but I wasn't sure. We have to be a 50-foot max, but where you have it marked in your plan, you're under 50 foot, but I don't know if that's the right place to measure the height.
We looked at that, and if you also maybe don't notice is that the parking garage is excessively high, which doesn't need to be that high. We have the ability to adjust, but you go to the midpoint of the pitched roof, and so we will make sure that it meets the requirements with your staff. Again, we haven't really reviewed the overall project with them, and they haven't reviewed it as well, but we have inherent flexibility to deal with that. We do not, as I said, want to ask, we're not going to ask for a height waiver. We will make sure it meets it. Okay? Yeah.
And then what is a turf block on the west elevation of the property? Is that for additional parking, or what's going on there?
That is, it can handle traffic or parking or whatever, and it allows for it to be green. It's a green area. We're looking at that option right now.
Can you pull that up? I mean, how would cars get there right now? Or I'm just trying to make sense of it. And do you need that?
Yes, it's part of the parking requirement. Yes, part of the numbers that we have in there. But it provides for more green is what it does. And again, it's something we're going to need to work with your staff, your engineers, and everybody on, but we've done it in other projects.
So that whole, I guess, how are people going to park there?
It's one way right now.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's one way to the north.
Yep.
So one little cut through.
We'll provide you actual pictures of other areas that we've done and stuff that we've accommodated. So, and again, the other thing, just to, I think that you'll get the same effect if we're looking at a texturing of the drive all the way through there, so that it becomes the accent driveway, which the public sees. So we're looking at some textural changes and color changes in that area that we think will also add to what you're asking. Anyway, that's, I don't want to get into, but the comments are great. We're going to take those and try to work with them in bringing something back to you.
Okay, and then one more comment. You guys are aware there's a school there. You know, I really need to consider how the traffic flow is going to affect with, it's a small school, but there is, you know, student drop-off, pick-up.
Right.
I think that's important to determine how you're going to maintain that.
Okay.
Okay, any other council comments or questions?
One thing I think I'll just add real quick, there is concern of additional traffic. We've seen a lot of that. We've had a couple accidents even right there this week. And so I think it's important that some solution with regard to Bridge Road. I think that is just a key area. That might be part of the issue going out onto Old Dixie and going into it.
Yeah, we were just trying to really work with the concept that you were provided for by Treasure Coast and what they're proposing for the urbanism aspect of this project. So we're going to look at it. Thank you. Perfect. Great.
Thank you. All right, I'll open up to public comment. Or redeeming cards.
Yes, I have an email from Abby Brennan where she asked for her comments to be placed into the record, so those will be placed into the record. I have a comment card from Tom Bradford.
Okay, Mr. Bradford?
Hey, good evening. Tom Bradford, 44 Chestnut Trail, Tequesta. I really just have questions, and I don't expect answers from anybody, but I wanted to pose them for your consideration. So I racked my brain trying to figure out how they came up with 106 units, and now I know it's primarily the addition of the other parcels as well as abandonment of the right-of-way. As far as that goes, I can tell you that we spent over $1 million to build that road and to demolish and condemn the old public shopping center was there. So I'm okay with doing away with the roundabout, but I think you need to keep it as a public right-of-way that you control and that you own. And one thing to keep an eye on is to make sure the alignment, the northern alignment of that road lines up properly with Tequesta Oaks Drive, because that's very important. I'm also concerned about the south side rendering. George showed a photo of it, or a rendering of it, but it looked like it wasn't the blank wall that I was worried about. But I would think that some mom and pop stores along that frontage would be fantastic to generate more commercial activity on Bridge Road. I wouldn't want to really have commercial on the south side and nothing of value other than the residents themselves on the north side. Are all of the right-of-way improvements that are being contemplated on Bridge Road to be paid for by the developer? That's a question. Including the angled parking. I know that Mr. D'Ambra wanted more landscaping, but you know, what they're proposing is angled parking, but I think the on-street parking remains to be critical and necessary. But if you went parallel as recommended by Treasure Coast, you might get more room for green space that you were concerned about, Mr. D'Ambra. So that's one thing to contemplate. One thing I would be curious about is, will they bury the overhead utilities on the north side of Bridge Road? Because you certainly wouldn't want to be a resident looking out a window to see the transformers up that high. Another one is, I think it's fantastic they did the 0.57 acres for the park. That's excellent. The question is, and you brought it up already, should it be dedicated to the village? I mean, given to the village in essence? Oh, God, okay. I don't know. Okay. Okay, I've got 50% more to add, but that's all for now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford.
Jessica Naaman.
Okay.
Jessica Namath, 20 Shady Lane. And I'm gonna like stand up here and try not to cry, honestly, because I'm so disappointed in the outcome of this Treasure Coast Regional Planning and the fact that we can post this online and you have the community just in an uproar. I mean, they cannot believe that this is what we're looking at for Tequesta. You know, the size and the density and the traffic this will bring. And I mean, we've heard from the business owners, some of them on Bridge Road. I mean, has anybody else spoken to them or gotten any business input? I truly I notice how you keep saying that you're meeting our requirements, when we're maxing out our requirements. And I would just like to note that, you know, we really, again, this was, in my opinion, another missed opportunity for having taken the time to really see what we could do as a village and listen to the people and make the proper recommendations or amendments to our code so that we aren't sitting here faced with this situation, because this is not what residents of Tequesta envision for our town center. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Shaw.
Bob Shaw, 198 Golfview. I just had need some clarification on what Mr. Gentile said about rentals. Are there any lease term requirements as far as duration of the leases?
Right now, we don't know. We're just conceptual.
Okay.
I mean, typically, if you do a rental community, there's going to be a minimum period of time.
Right, that's what I'm curious about.
Yes.
I think others would be concerned about
Yeah, and at
short-term
the rental levels, it would not be short-term.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment?
Oh, can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yep.
Just, obviously, I was not able to follow along with Mr. Diambra and Mr. Gentile because I know you guys clearly have spoken, which for me, I am curious what the other two properties are that you guys are talking about on Bridge Road.
Well, the two properties within the site are the old CNS
Yes,
Citizens
yes.
Bank building, and then obviously the Main Street building where Italiano is now on top of
Right.
its gym.
But you're
Now,
saying the whole area is prime for redevelopment,
What I was
was your
saying
quote.
was that my thought was have a park there
Yeah.
and have that be the anchor. But what I said is then I think that would lead to development opportunities
Yeah, you said the
along.
whole area is ripe for redevelopment.
Yeah, I said that along Bridge Road, along Tequesta Drive, you could have the park as the anchor, and then you could do development on Bridge Road and on Tequesta Drive. What form that would take, whether it was, with businesses or residential or some mixed
But
combination.
has there been some sort of a discussion with any of the property owners on Bridge Road about potentially selling and developing that?
No, not that I've had. And to your point, you asked, have I
Have
spoken
you?
with some of the business owners? And I have, and the ones I've spoken to also support the idea of that being a park.
Yeah. No, and I
So-
understand that. I was just
Mrs.
saying.
Namath, I'm sorry, I think I would like to just kind of, the
That's
back and
fine,
forth.
that's fine.
You
I
guys
was
can
just
talk
trying
off
to
the record,
understand
and I'd
what
be happy
he
to
had
talk
said.
with you off
Yeah.
the record as well.
No, okay,
So please
and
reach out to
again-
me afterwards.
Okay, it
and
was,
get all
and
your questions
all right,
answered.
I'll speak with, I can ask Mr. Gentile which two properties. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, please come up.
I'm Joyce Raftery. I live on Cypress Road. I walk everywhere. That's my hood. Yes, there's a CVS and there's parking lots and there's businesses and everything needs to be had. I didn't know that Main Street was a street. I've walked on that street 100 million times and seen 6 cars that are parked at the gym, 2 cars go by me. The parking spaces across the street on Bridge, there's 10 businesses on Bridge maybe, and 5 cars parked there, sorry. It's not a busy area. It's ugly. It would be welcoming to have something pretty that could incorporate the businesses on the other side. I don't know, paint the businesses on the other side the same color, put murals in places. On Cypress Drive on the other direction, mural them. Make it new and rejuvenated, make it welcoming to walk. People want to walk. I support my mile. That's what I do. I live right there and I support my mile, and I like supporting the mile. Thank you. I think it would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? No. I just would like to just kind of reiterate, I mean, this is a really sensitive topic and development for our community. We've also received emails and phone calls. Many people are not in favor, with this. I understand private property rights very well. I understand the project needs to pencil out for you guys, but please just keep in mind what a sensitive project this is for our community. And some of the things that Mrs. Namath brought up, I've met, business owners from Bridge Road, and they really wanted to be included, which is why I had my comment. They wish the park was on their side to open it up. So please look at this as a whole, not just those, the acres that you're potentially obtaining, and just please keep it in consideration what a sensitive topic this is in our community.
Well, thank you all again for letting us present, and thank you for the comments. And we have work to do, that we will continue working, as we always try to do with the village. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Agenda item 18, consider a recommendation for a potential village and Tequesta sponsorship for a solar co-op. Mr. Shaw?
While he's coming up, I just want to, I guess, maybe clarify why this item is on our agenda and where it came from. I remember attending an EAC meeting maybe back in January or February. They received a proposal or a presentation from this co-op group. And then I know they had some subsequent conversations. And then, you know, at one point, I would say 2 months ago, they came to me wanting me to, you know, put it on our website and, you know, and put the information out there. Typically, when we have, we get a ton of requests to put information on our website. We typically do not do that. This process is followed similar to what we do with special events in that if council wants to endorse something we want to put on our website, we bring it to council. Council says go for it, and then that's when we do. So we did send it back to the EAC for a recommendation, and that's where we have today is we have a recommendation from EAC. I've asked Mr. Shaw to come and really help us understand what we're agreeing to put on our website. So.
Thanks. Yep, Bob Shaw, you're vice chair of the EAC. Just to add to what Jeremy has said, the co-op is already up and running. There are about 3 months left for homeowners to sign up. The ask for you guys, the council, is, you know, will the village help publicize the co-op? If the village decides to assist in getting the word out on the program, you would be providing a service to your residents. By informing BOT homeowners of the co-op, you're affording them the opportunity to learn how they can become energy independent, save tremendous amounts of money, and be part of a solution in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It may also be helpful to inform our residents that the cost of photovoltaic solar systems is currently reduced by almost 1/3 through the federal government's residential clean energy tax credit. That tax credit was increased this year to 30% under the Inflation Reduction Act. I'd also like to speak personally, not on behalf of the EAC, but I would also like to ask the village to consider code changes to require solar on new commercial buildings in the village. The 30% tax credit is available to businesses just like it is for homeowners. And finally, I think the village should entertain the idea of adding solar to satisfy the energy needs of their municipal buildings and facilities. Believe it or not, there is a mechanism in place for municipalities to take advantage of the 30% tax credit. If you'd like, I could provide more information on that to you. You know, with consideration of code changes relevant to solar on commercial buildings and installation of solar on municipal facilities, the village could be proactive and lead by example in resiliency and sustainability planning for the future. You know, I didn't go into the residential co-op program because there's a sufficient amount of information in the backup for this topic, but I'd be willing to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any council comments or questions?
So since they've been up and running, this co-op, for about 3 months, have you heard if they've had any success getting residents to join?
Yeah. I think it's been probably about a month, and there's 57 homeowners who've joined. This is the entire Palm Beach County.
Okay.
They're only looking to get 150. As you can see, the South County is represented by publicizing this. Boca, Boynton, Delray, West Palm have all become sponsors. They've got it on their websites. They put it in the social media. There's nobody in North County doing it. I have reached out to the town of Jupiter, and it was presented to their environmental task force Monday night, and I believe they're going to be bringing it to council to do the same thing, to publicize the co-op. But
Okay, so as a resident would choose if they want to join the co-op,
yes,
correct? Okay.
Yep. So you,
I know, I had another part to that.
so you choose to.
I'm just trying to envision if the village itself put it on its website as an endorsement, essentially. I'm 50-50 on it. So I know that we usually don't do endorsements because if we do one for all, we do one for one, we do one for all. However, there is so much solar stuff floating out there, scams, companies that just financially don't make sense. And I get it all the time for residents. They'll text me a picture or something. Is this from the village? Is this real? Do you know if this is a scam? So I am a little sensitive to if we can give some sort of guidance to some degree that at least this group is in the county and it's legit.
So yeah, this answers your concern. This is taking advantage of this national 501c3 nonprofit, Solar United Neighbors, who does this all over the country. They've been doing it in Florida for years. They've been doing it in counties all around the state. They're the resource for homeowners to tap into, to ask these questions. Is this company legit? You know, what should I be asking them for questions? This is exactly the solution to that problem.
Okay, so it got me thinking, because I know when the chief especially is asked by sometimes, I got a letter from this so-called FP&L company, is this a scam? There's a lot of scams out there. So I was just wondering from the village aspect, if us just putting the organization's name and link on the website so residents know it's a safe place. It's a safe, if they choose to join or reach out to them, they know that it's a safe organization. It's just not some random organization floating out there. That's kind of where my headspace is. What are we doing for residents to assure them this one's okay out of all the millions are out there? Yeah. So I'm open to the idea of putting it on the website. I'm a little hesitant to blast it on everything, but I figured website's easy. It's a link. It's a website. That's where I'm at.
Thank you.
Well, I have two things. One, I would not be in favor of mandating this for businesses. I think they have to make their own determination whether it's economically viable and feasible for them. The second thing I'm very concerned about is where the solar panels come from. I do not think we should be, at this point in time, supporting Chinese entities and Chinese manufacturing. And I believe right now that the majority of those panels are coming out of China. So if they're going to be engaged with parties that are using Chinese manufactured solar panels, then I would be absolutely against promoting this on our website.
Do we have that answer?
A lot of solar panels do come from China, and I'm not here to try and debate
I was just wondering if we know where they do come from.
commerce nationally. I do know that our president in the summer of this year enabled the Defense Production Act to speed up the production of solar panels, battery storage. But the consumer, the homeowners that sign up for this can choose whether they can ask that question. And they can say, if this supplier that's chosen only uses Chinese-made solar panels, they can say no. But the villages has no say if they decide to publicize it. That's the only ask. They had no say in who's chosen, what products are being utilized. This co-op, once it gets established, it's on its own. A committee is formed within the homeowners who choose to sign up, and they choose the installer, and only look back to Solar United Neighbors as a resource for questions. And
No, and I appreciate that, and I read the process through, but again, if you're asking us to put this on our website and promote it, understanding that they would make the ultimate choice, but if that group ends up going in the direction, that particular direction, then I don't, as a U.S. citizen who's concerned about the current economic and political environment, I don't think we should be party to it in any way, shape, or form. That's just my point of view.
Appreciate you coming, appreciate you sharing and advising and hearing from the EAC is important, so appreciate that. I'm not in favor just because of the aspect of opening the door and promoting outside business and continuing that process moving forward. But I think I think locally we can, individually promote it as best as we can.
Are there other co-ops in the area, or is this the only option? Because I was thinking maybe if there's more than one solar co-op, like it might be beneficial to list all of them instead of us just promoting one of
This
them.
is the only co-op I know of developed by a nonprofit. This is not a for-profit business. This is
Right.
the only one, I think it's the biggest out there. I'm not aware of anything else like this. No. I mean, and I think it's in the literature, just so you guys know, the nonprofit, the only way they get paid to staff themselves is they get $600 per contract from the installer, per household. The installer pays solely their neighbors just for their operational costs, staffing.
Okay, and I know there was legislation this year, what was it? I think it was to stop net metering or get rid of it. I don't know, Keith, I don't know if you have your tabs on if that's a bill that might come alive again this next year, because I do worry if something, there's movement with that, and then we promote this, and then that gets passed next year because it comes alive again. I mean, it's so political, but it's hard not to bring this up because it's for a government to promote something when, and that legislation this year was a big deal. So.
It was a big deal. It was definitely political.
Yeah.
But that was shot down. But that legislation did grandfather anyone who was going to get it installed up to the end of the year. So I think if it went into 2023, anyone installing it that year would be grandfathered. There would it wouldn't be a reversal of the net metering system.
Okay. And then, Keith, we'd have to write some kind of disclaimer.
So a couple things. First of all, the agenda item that's before you talks about the co-op and putting a link or providing a way for residents to access information about getting solar on their residence. The issue of changing our code is, in my opinion, a completely different topic. I haven't even given that any thought, but that's a big topic that would require a lot more discussion than this agenda item warrants. So, number one. Number two, when the village manager reached out to me about this agenda item, I reached out to a colleague of mine who is an extremely well-regarded environmental attorney and planner. She's well-regarded in topics of environmental law, resiliency, renewable energy, that sort of thing. She had she acknowledged that there are plenty of shady solar programs out there. However, she was familiar with this co-op and was very clear to me that, in her opinion, it is an above-board, good, legitimate enterprise. That being said, to answer your specific question, in my opinion, if the council is in favor of putting something on the website, I do think it would be in our best interest to include language that, we're providing this as information. You need to do your own due diligence. We don't
endorse,
recommend, or oppose participation. We don't warrant or guarantee any particular results from using solar. We're not guaranteeing the quality of work or any particular contractor that may conduct work on any property. That sort of thing is that we're providing information. Please do your own due diligence. We're not guaranteeing anything. So I would strongly recommend, and I can craft the language appropriately, but if the council wants this on the website, I would strongly recommend that type of a introductory disclaimer so that it's very clear that you're providing the information, but you're not necessarily endorsing or recommending that anybody do this. It's, here you go, do your own research, and leave it at that. So that would be my opinion on that topic.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If we want to educate the public on pros and cons of solar, we can do that. We can write that up. We can ask for a write-up to put on our website, but to endorse even with a disclaimer, I think opens the door, you know, and gets away from our neutrality. We should be staying neutral, and I don't think I don't want to be part of the decision to open that door and then have to tell somebody else no. So I don't think it's a good idea to endorse, again, even with a disclaimer. I think it's a bad move.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and nothing against solar at all. I think, you know, it's a good thing, but I think from our standpoint and from government standpoint, it's hard for us, because my biggest thing is like what's been said is opening a can of worms to have to allow it for other people. So, all right, is there any public comment on this? Mr. Bradford raised his hand first.
I don't think you should endorse it. I think you should just put it on your website and let it be known that it's there. It's accessible. As the president of the Tequesta Pines Homeowners Association, solar is coming more and more and more to us, and I am dealing with one company right now that's just, they can't even answer basic questions so this person can get their project approved. That's how problematic they can be. But this is not to suggest that this particular group should be endorsed. Your conservation element and your housing element says you will do things to facilitate energy efficiency through solar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you would be complying with your comprehensive plan if you simply find a proper place to just let people know this co-op is available. And anyone who signs up for the co-op, at the end of the day, when they see the final product of who is available to select for solar installation, if they don't like any aspect of it, they can walk away, no questions asked, none whatsoever. If they want an American company that manufactures the solar panels, they have the right to ask that of the providers that are available to them. If they say they don't have it, they can say yay or nay, whatever. You're not mandating a thing. And you could even put that there with the provisos that Keith mentioned, but don't endorse it. Just let people know, because it will help them get solar done if they choose to do solar on their own. It's just a tool to help them. So I would say skip the endorsement, put the data there, and if somebody stumbles across it, great, it's there. That's all. Just help. It's a tool to help.
Thank you. Ms. Nemeth?
Jessica Nemeth. I don't know if you guys are on Nextdoor at all, but these solar people, I think, are one of like the #1 thing I read about. People worried they go door to door, they're coming up to their houses, and that's what I was just double checking with Mr. Shaw, that this particular co-op does not go door to door. That's not how they work. So I think that there may be a portion of the population that might be interested or want to know more, but don't trust it or know where to go or, you know, where to start. And I think that it would be helpful in just educating, again, not endorsing, not saying that we, you know, endorse them in any way, but we know that this is a nonprofit, and if you were to, you know, look into one, this is the one that doesn't go door to door or something like that, just to make people feel safe, because it's an issue I see like daily on Nextdoor. So I would hope that we would maybe give them a safe option to explore. That's all.
Thank you. I don't know if there's a way to just do more informational. Mr. Shaw, if you can come back up so you can answer questions. Is there, and I feel like we have published solar information before, or am I imagining that on our website? More informational, not promoting
I think I wrote an article in
newsletter. It was in the newsletter, okay. I mean, is there any way to write up something that's more informational that kind of says like, research your local co-op options, or something that's more generic and informational, so we're not putting the actual co-op's name on the website? And that could be a good compromise.
Yes. I mean, the greatest resource is this co-op. That's what they're all about, is to disseminate information and to help and assist. But I get the hang up.
Yeah, so I think if we can do some information on the website, guiding them to what to do, what to look for, who to research from a general aspect, not specific, naming someone, I think we could do that. I don't know if that would be a good compromise for everyone.
I'd be okay with that for now. I get what you're saying. Kind of, it's a first step to guide residents with the keyword co-op. And if you're telling us it's really the only one that's out there in the county, wouldn't they be the ones that they would find? If they were to search co-ops for solar?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay as long as we don't have to do any disclaimers.
Frank, you good with that?
Yeah, I'll go along. I mean, again, I still have the concerns about where panels are coming from because they're being made with slave labor, and I just cannot stomach that.
So maybe we can put a comment in that as well.
We probably should.
Do you want to put it just on the website or do a write-up? You said write-up. Where would the write-up
Yeah,
go?
more informational. I think we can put on the website, and then I think if it's more information like that, we could, we can post it on Facebook and other outlets that we use.
Okay, if it gets posted anywhere else, I mean, I'm not a fan of when things are constantly posted over and over again because it gets a little overdone.
Lori, I got it up. I am done. Okay, so I think we'll, it sounds like we're gonna vote no on this item, but then you'll work on more of an informational write-up that we can.
Yeah, maybe I'll touch base with you to refine exactly what you're looking for, but I'm getting the gist of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, can I get a motion?
So we have to change it, right?
Well, I think we just deny this and then.
Yeah. Motion to
okay.
deny
Yeah.
this.
Tonight.
Can I get a motion to deny?
Motion to deny? To deny.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 19. It's a resolution for an budget amendment to the fiscal year.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor. This is a fairly easy one, I think. We had the building inspection safety concerns at 200 Waterway, and we did an emergency contract with the vendor, and now we're just asking to ratify that. We have extra revenues coming in the building department, so we're using those extra revenues to pay for those extra expenses.
Thank you. Any council comments or questions?
None.
Any public comment? No, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. I thought Jose was going to have to comment.
He was
All right,
there
moving
just in
on
case.
to agenda item 20, the ordinance number 14-22 for a general obligation bond.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll read the title. Ordinance 1422, an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, ordering and calling for a bond referendum election to be held on March 14th, 2023, to determine if the qualified electors residing in the village approve the issuance by the village of general obligation bonds in one or more series, which shall mature not later than 20 years from their date of issuance, in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $10 million, payable from ad valorem taxes levied in amounts sufficient to pay debt service on such bonds on all taxable property within the village, to finance costs relating to the acquisition of land to be used for various purposes described herein, providing severability and an effective date. This is first reading.
Thank you, Keith. I think Jeremy's doing a little presentation here.
I put together a few slides. I mean, maybe just help the conversation, hopefully help and not hinder it. But, just the intent of this, when we put this together per council's direction, we were going to, and this mimicked very close to what Jupiter did. So we borrowed that language and tweaked it just a bit. But funds would be required to be used on lands or land costs that meet the established criteria falling into one of the following categories: environmentally sensitive waterfront and recreational lands, lands for open spaces, planning and development of space acquired by the village through this program, archaeological and historic preservation, traffic mitigation, costs associated with maintaining these acquired lands. So I put together, I guess, some potential uses of this. We haven't dove into the actual specifics, but there are several options for the village to consider if this does pass. Purchasing and develop individual parcels ideal for neighborhood or pocket parks. I've defined a pocket park for you guys if you're unfamiliar with those are, but usually generally just small piece of land, sometimes irregular, that you can have very open green places to sit. Sometimes you'll have where they develop, put a playground in depending on the size of the parcel. And then increase the footprint of Constitution Park. I know over the years that I've been here, there's been multiple conversations about really trying to square off Constitution Park. There are several parcels, and I don't know that they're for sale today, but over the time I've been here, there has been conversation about purchasing those. Remembrance Park and the development of those 3 phases according to the master plan. Redevelopment of Tequesta Park according to the master plan. Development of Linear Park. So I just put together a couple just to put together the conversation. I know with just the individual parcels, I think it was the EAC that mentioned about getting an inventory of the I guess empty parcels in and around the village. We have done that. I don't know that any of them for sale, so I didn't list any of those, but I mean that's a consideration that we look at empty parcels, and we have done that. As far as the specifics of this Parks Bond referendum, the village can issue debt upon passage of the referendum. So if this passes in March, immediately following, we could issue debt. The village has 3 years to spend the debt once it's issued, and to stay in compliance with the feds. Structuring of the debt will be determined by the amount of length and time between assessing and collecting the ad valorem. So this is a little bit of example. If you have $10 million, you're only going to start the debt service if you purchase a piece of land for, let's say, $1 million. You only start the debt service on the $1 million. So you can do it in chunks, different phases. You don't have to start the debt service all in the $10 million all at one time. You can do it as parcels come available. The only requirement is that you spend it within 3 years. So also, if it's approved in March, and let's say we issue debt by July, we would not start collecting the ad valorem until the next fiscal year, which would be 24-25, assuming that debt is issued before December 31st. As you guys know, as of January 1st, a screenshot or a picture is taken of all of our parcels, and so if it was taken after January 1st, it'd have to wait till the following year before we start receiving those ad valorems. We are available to pay ourselves back with those funds for the debt service that we've incurred. Once we issue, like say it's that $1 million, we have 20 years to pay that back. If we go and do a second one and we issue another $2 million, we have 20 years to pay that one back. So it's just based on when we borrow that money, but the clock starts for 20 years once that actual debt is incurred. And then you can choose those funds, how much, when, as long as it's done within 3 years. These are just a couple examples of what the residents would pay if you've seen our interest rates go up, so that's obviously has changed a little bit since probably 6 months ago, but these are 3 different scenarios. With $1 million, the average homeowner equates to $28 for a taxable value of $500,000. If you're talking about $5 million, $138. If you're talking about $10 million, the average homeowner will see a $276 increase on their taxable value. So with that, I mean, I know he left me. Mr. Snyder was here. He was going to help me answer any specific questions, but I know Keith has done a couple of these. He can probably answer those technical questions themselves, and I can answer any questions you may have as well.
Okay, thank you. Council comments, questions?
No, I understand everything. No questions from me.
So I have a question that'll clarify, hopefully, for me and some residents that were asking. And this kind of goes for any council that would do a bond like this, including the Jupiter one. What is the process to make sure that any council doesn't just run rogue buying whatever they want, like if residents don't approve? Because parcels might not become available the second let's say it passes. It might be a year down the road that parcel is available for sale. What is that process for council to decide they want to purchase it with the bond money? Is it just a vote? Is it a public meeting that we have to go through to discuss that property?
Absolutely, a public meeting, just like how we would do anything else. It's a democratic process. The 5 council members have to
okay, so everything that's purchased, no matter where it is, it has to go through a public meeting.
Yes.
So that means residents will absolutely know any parcels that council will be looking at to possibly use that money towards.
Yeah, the manager doesn't go rogue, so. So yes, it would be council decision.
I think residents just want to be a part of the decision process of what would be purchased, where it would be, and if we were to spend money on developing a park, they just want to be aware of it and make sure that their leaders are not just behind the scenes choosing what we're doing. Because right now, obviously, we can't make a list because in a year or two, something might become available. We don't know that today.
Sure.
So, okay, so there is a process that has to go through. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you all know, I'm very supportive of this. I think we do need to pool money. As we've talked about, we're still gonna look for other sources, whether it's, again, grants or appropriations from the state or other individuals perhaps who might want to contribute. So I think having the pool is important. If we're able to raise funds from other sources and we're able to pay things back early, subject to whatever the call provisions are, then that's great. That will alleviate some of the burden, even though the burden is not significant. But I think without having that pool, we've seen opportunities come and go that I think we had funds available as Jupiter did, we might have acted on. So I think this is an important step. And as we've all said, it's not a decision the council should make. It's a decision that we should leave to the residents for them to determine whether this is something they want to take on. So I think this is the right approach to it.
So I wanted to put a little twist to it. I think it's unfortunate that we, as residents of Tequesta, are put in this situation to continue to keep the character of the village of Tequesta by purchasing land like this, when there is other unincorporated areas around us that continue to benefit over and over and over from us working really hard and taxing our residents in different forms to be able to go purchase land like this, which I think we should do, and I'm going to be in favor of this. But I'd like to at least make sure that if we were to have any annexation down the road, that those individuals would have to participate in this as well. And so that's, to me, is important to make sure that's captured in this type of an agreement. We see a lot of comments from unincorporated residents about things being overpopulated. And Paradise Park we just had a conversation about that. And you know what, if we were together as one Tequesta, we would have been able to probably purchase that property outright. And so that's a cost, that's pain that us not having the unincorporated area as part of the village of Tequesta. That's it. That's one of them right there. And I don't think many people recognize that. And so I just wanted to bring that up today. And I think it's unfortunate that we are again carrying the load, heavy load for the area, to be able to try to keep Tequesta small. And I hope people are listening.
Okay, thank you. I kind of have the same stance as I did last time. I'm not against bonds, and I would like nothing more than to see our parks and open space opportunities grow. But I think it's, in light of the economy, inflation, everything else that's been raised in our residents, not just by the village, but by other entities. I think it's in real poor taste to put this out here right now on the March ballot. I am worried about voter turnout for that too. I mean, right now, no one's qualified, so we don't know if there's gonna be an election. So if there is an election, that could be low voter turnout, right? So, do you have a question or comment?
I was just thinking, I believe we have 2 candidates running.
But no one's qualified yet.
Right, but
November.
there will be an election because of the charter review.
Right, but I'm saying, no one's qualified
I
yet,
gotcha,
so
I
we don't know
gotcha.
if there's actual
I was just
election.
getting confused, okay,
There's
I gotcha.
usually more voter turnout if they're voting on a council member, correct?
Okay.
We don't know, because that qualifying period is, November 1st through the 15th, right? So yes, the charter stuff will be there, but I'm saying, we don't know what the voter turnout's gonna be, and, I think it just has to pass by 51%?
Correct, simple majority.
So, I mean, what if 1,000 people vote and that's it, and it passes? That's not a really good poll from the community on people and residents wanting to pay for this. So I'm really concerned with that and the timing of it right now.
That's about the voter turnout every election anyway.
So can I ask you a question? Because I hear you on your concern of not having a great voter turnout, but that's more than what we even have for residents to come out and vote for council members, and that's a big decision.
Maybe my number was wrong, but I know there was more than 1,000 on the last election.
It's growing every every time we have an election.
Yeah.
But it's not anywhere 50% of even our 6,000 and change population.
And maybe in light, like I said, it's more in light of the economy too. I think there's people that probably can't afford this right now. And if it's a lower voter turnout, I think there's a lot of people that could be affected by this that weren't aware or didn't, you know, it's just, I think it's in really poor taste to do it right now. I would be in favor of waiting and seeing how, you know, the economy is and everything next year. And then I know we also, let me just finish if you don't mind real quick. The 10 million, I don't know where that came from. I think there was no really plan for the 10 million and we keep comparing it to Jupiter, but Jupiter had substantial acreage and preserve to buy, so I don't think that's a good example to reference. And if we want it to pass, we should be strategic with the number. Like 7 million might look a lot better than 10 million to residents too, so I think we should be strategic with the amount that we're asking for. And then I know there was comments made last time about not using this on Tequesta Park. So if it does pass, I don't know why we wouldn't personally use it on Tequesta Park, because we have a 30+ years remaining on the lease. It's not going anywhere. Even if someone like Martin County took it over, all of our residents are still going to use it. It would 100% benefit our community. So I kind of have a hard time saying if we're going to ask for a bond and potentially, raise the debt for it, that we wouldn't consider moving forward some of the Tequesta Park stuff, because it would benefit our community for years and years and years and years.
I think, because I'm the one who's, clearly stated that I don't believe village taxpayer money should go and significantly go to Tequesta Park, absent a transfer of ownership, which the state has indicated at this point in time they're unwilling to do. Personally, I think, could some of this go to Tequesta Park if we could get matching grants or appropriations? Absolutely. I talked to the manager about this, and I said, you know what, if we're talking about investing a more significant number, then I think we go back to the state, and if they won't grant us the land, then go back and tell them, okay, fine, let's extend the lease, and let's go to 100 years, so that we know that this park is going to be within our control and in our management authority for a very, very, very long period of time. And if they're willing to do something like that, then I'd probably be more open to the idea of spending a little bit more money. But I'm hopeful that either through grants or appropriations or whatever, we can get monies flowing in that will help offset the cost of Tequesta Park. And like I said, if we're able to, some of this may get returned to the taxpayers in the sense that we pay some things off early and we alleviate the need for the ongoing taxation. But I do think the issues you raise as far as the economy and everything, they're going to be there a year from now too. I mean, you could sit here and say, when is there ever a good time? And I like Aaron's response last time. He goes, well, I'm not a politician. I think we have an opportunity. I think we put it forth to the voters. If they tell us, hey, this isn't the right time, they're going to vote it down. And if they think it is the right time, they'll say, yeah, let's go ahead and move it forward.
And I think the only reason we're putting it forward is because we weren't able to proceed with Paradise Park.
That's one reason, yeah. We lost out on that. We may have lost out on that opportunity. Maybe.
So the legal question I was thinking about when you were making your point, I think I've asked Keith this before. If something goes on the ballot and it does get voted down, but let's say a year later, residents are coming to council saying, ask us again, we can put it back on, right?
Yeah, there's a waiting period, I thought
it was a year.
I think it's a year.
But it is possible.
But yes, you can,
Okay.
after
It's
that
not a
waiting period
10-year
expires.
big gap.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. I'm okay with this version. So when we had the housing presentation day, I mean, that's a large scale area. For me, this is for our residents' backyard. So I'm okay with asking them to tell us if they're okay with it. Because they're literally going to benefit from it in their backyard. Not necessarily down in West Palm or Weston Gardens and all that.
And I don't disagree with that, just for me,
Right.
not this year, not
that.
March. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, any public comment?
Marcia Nielsen, 94 Beechwood Trail. I'm confused because to finance costs relating to the acquisition of lands, right? That's what the wording says here that I'm reading?
Not only.
Pardon me?
Not solely.
Well,
It can be also used to develop, for example, Remembrance Park.
that's not what this is saying. It's saying to finance costs relating to the acquisition of lands.
Keith, can you clarify?
So if it's, now I'm hearing, oh, well, it'll, for enhancement. That's not what I'm reading.
Exhibit A to the ordinance defines the land acquisition program that the ordinance would allow the council to finance, and I'll read it, it's not very long. The land acquisition program consists of the acquisition of lands that are environmentally sensitive or waterfront or which may be used for recreation, open space, archaeological or historic preservation, or traffic mitigation, and capital improvements thereto, all
well-
as to be specifically determined by the village council, and as the same may be amended and supplemented from time to time by
I
the
think
village
this
council.
is rather deceitful, quite frankly. Because if I were standing here and I would say for the acquisition of lands, that's what I would be voting on, not renovation of what we have already. I think that's a deceitful thing. I really do think the wording is deceitful.
Thank you. Any other cards, Lori? No, okay, Mr. Bradford?
I have two questions. Jeremy, were you saying that if the voters approve the referendum, we have 3 years to spend the money? Or were you saying that once they approve it and a project is selected and you spend money to acquire the land or to make the improvement, you have 3 years to spend that money, that's your tranche that you've drawn down?
I'm told we have 3 years from the time that it passes, the referendum.
Wow.
That's what I've been told by finance and our bond counsel.
That's not the way Jupiter's
I can check,
operating.
when they come, I can check with them, but that was what I was told.
Wow.
I didn't even put that slide together, somebody else put it together for me, so.
So, the other thing is, and maybe it's a Keith question, but, the way I thought it would be was, if they vote and they say, yeah, up to 10 million, and the voters approve it, okay? And then, as time goes by, it's still there to tap if something comes along and you buy a piece of property. So in that case, the debt service associated with that does not hit the taxpayer all in one shot. My question is, for Keith, is there a way to let the taxpayer know that they're not going to be hit with 10 million in one shot?
We have 15 words in the title and 75 words in the summary to put everything on the ballot, so.
Yeah. You're limited.
Those are the parameters within which we have to,
I think it's
to
helpful
operate.
if somehow the taxpayer knows, hey, the debt doesn't hit the taxpayer until such time as the property or the improvement is implemented.
If and only?
Pardon me?
If and only?
Yeah.
So my last comment is this. And I've said it before, I do think that the timing is not good. And it's best to find a time where it's excellent to do so versus now. And I think if you want it to pass, I think you probably would want to do it when it's clearly not, inflationary times or, high unemployment or things like that. I just feel like everybody's on edge trying to see when the next shoe's going to drop relative to a recession or something. And plus, it's another thing. I don't know if the county knows that lady's going around doing that traveling sales show you got tonight, because that did not seem to fit the current law about selling bonds and not saying a word.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford.
So it is-
One quick
it is-
comment,
it is
Jeremy,
three-
if you don't mind, hold on. One quick comment why I said about 7 million might look better than 10 million too, because exactly what Mr. Bradford said, voters might not be really educated, and it's hard for us to get it all on paper on what that really means. So I think that's another reason to be strategic with the amount you put on Because like 7 million might look better than 10 if we really only need 7, so.
I would just add that if we are in a financial condition locally, we don't necessarily have to go purchase the land to start that tax. So
That's a good point.
we still have the ability not to do it.
Correct. Mrs. Namath? Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy can, after, I'll let Mrs. Namath, you can go first. Or, nope, come on.
Sure, okay,
Mhm.
sorry. I was just going to say that I, even though I live here, was actively a part of helping Jupiter educate their public. There was a group, I think it was their environmental advisory, or their task force actually, that kind of spearheaded and reached out, and there was, social media campaigns, and we did a lot of the educating online for the people that were really trying to push for it. So that's, one avenue that people could do and try to delegate or help people educate. But my question was, I heard we may have missed out on the Paradise Park opportunity. Does that mean we haven't completely?
It's under contract, but the contract has not been executed at this point in time. And it's
So
actually-
hypothetically, if we were to get money, could we purchase Paradise Park? I mean, that's completely, I have no idea, this is just.
The current buyer does have a way out, and they would have to exercise that way out. And if
So
they-
it
if
could
they-
be 1 in a million, but potentially that it could, bond money could be
Potentially could
used.
happen, and if it did, then we could approach, the owner.
Okay, and my next question would be, is there a period of time you have to wait in between trying bond referendum? Say, how long is the period of time?
I thought it was 6 months, but you said a year, Keith. You emailed us
It's,
last
I don't think it's
workshop
any
about
longer
it.
than a
But
year,
it's not
maybe
years
6
or
months. I
something.
don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look in the statutes.
No longer than a year.
Because that, in my opinion, that would be a campaign in and of itself. If we were trying to acquire a parcel, the public could try to rally to support the council in acquiring the money to do so. If that's something, that is possible still. I'm sure there would be residents that would love to help, educate if that was an opportunity for us.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, and I'm not thinking about really Paradise Park, although I guess you could. My point is, so talking about the timing, the time is now, because if not us, developers are going to come in and snatch all that up, and that's what's happening right now. So, in a few years, who knows? Maybe it'll all be gone and started to be developed.
Yeah, the more time goes by, the more opportunities that can be lost, so.
Okay, Jeremy, you were trying to say something.
Well, I was answering his question, and I correct myself. It's 3 years from the time debt is issued. So, and I think that helps us with arbitrage. You don't want to collect the money, have it sitting in the bank and collecting interest, and then in collecting that money, that's where you get into the trouble. So it's 3 years from when the time debt is issued, not from the time it passes. Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
I think in general, we should be careful with hearsay on active contracts and potential sales. I mean, we should be really careful what we say up here about that. It's hearsay as far as I'm concerned, coming from anyone up here.
Mayor, I have one question I'd like to ask, if that's okay.
Yep.
Looking at the sample ballot question, and listening to public comment, and there was 2 great points made, is there a way we could finagle in there the word phases? So it's hinting that it wouldn't be all at once spent, or changing in the last sentence where it says "and capital improvements," making that a little more simple wording, park improvements.
There's a way.
Maybe just changing the word, like, do you understand? Maybe so it is more understanding to someone that maybe doesn't necessarily follow us to a T. So if they're going to vote because there is a charter and they read it, I hope not for the first time, but let's say they read it for the first time, it's a little more clear.
And then the other thing, Keith, I know we talked about what we can or cannot do as a village to promote this, but I think Jessica's thoughts about how Jupiter may have approached this in the past warrant some consideration on our part to see what we can or can't do.
He talked at the very end of it, you were talking about Jupiter. I think the big difference with Jupiter when they passed it, and I actually had a conversation with Jessica about this, they were able to advocate or or do a better job educating. The state just passed,
so
the state
so the
passed
state-
it where we cannot go out and act, we can't send out cards. They had rack cards that they were able to send out.
Their activities took place prior to the state launch.
So what I would propose, obviously, if we can get an activist group together that can go door to door, that's fine. I mean, we can't fund that activist group. We can't give them the stuff, but I mean, they can go door to door, but we just can't fund that. But I would propose that we, do a public workshop, maybe at the rec center or something. People can come to us, and do it that way and really have a good, meaningful conversation about potential uses, about, when the clock starts, all that good stuff that we can do it, but we can't actively go out and educate because of what the state has just recently passed. So a little bit different. Obviously, if there's a group that wants to get together that loves parks and wants to go door to door, that would be great. I'd be happy to meet with them and talk about, the information. So I might have a willing participant. I had a brief conversation with her already, so.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
Oh, we got two. Oh, no.
Public comment.
Harold Taylor, 13 Chapel Court. I have a question. Once you give me the answer, then I have a suggestion to make. If you go about 1.5 blocks, 2 blocks north of where our village recreation center is, there's an open piece of property. From what I understand, we own it outright. Instead of looking to try to buy land that we don't own, why don't we just put the money into improving that unused piece of property? It's going to be almost impossible to sell it to a developer. It's just not wide enough north to south. But you can do an awful lot recreationally with that piece of property. Instead of spending $10 million to buy extra land, let's just spend a whole lot less than that, save the taxpayers money, and let's just put the money into that park. We've got a public works group. They can do a lot of the work using Tequesta Village labor. I mean, I don't understand why that property sat empty for so long and nobody wants to do anything with it. Now, I would ask, if we try to develop the property, I'd ask FPL to take a couple of power poles down. I mean, there used to be overhead lines feeding that house that used to be on that property. I'm sure FPL would be very glad to take them down for us and spend the money there.
And Jeremy, was Remembrance Park on your list?
Yeah, I pulled the slide back up just for Harold. We have put together a plan to upgrade that. We know what we're going to do. We have construction drawings that are 90% complete today. We should have an estimate probable cost next week. So we are, I'll say, plowing forward to do that park already. So we just still need to work on the funding part. But yeah, that is under consideration.
And tonight we passed in the consent agenda an amendment, right?
Yeah, right.
Towards that.
Yep.
Is there a credit then added back on for something? Is there like a sewer, or wasn't there, I thought I asked you about that, Lori. Was there nothing that there was getting added back on?
Please.
Sorry.
Just so everyone can hear you.
Sorry.
Because I don't even know if I heard everything.
Credit that taxpayers were getting, that something was expiring or running, that they were gonna.
Country Club.
In the country
Sewer.
clubs. Oh, okay. Because I had heard somebody talking about, and I don't live in the country club, so I didn't understand that. So they have something that they will be getting money, or they're saving money for, right? No?
Yeah, the charge for the cost of installing the sewers was, a lot of people stretched that out over whatever it was, 10, 15, 20 years. The people who did that, which is the vast majority, that charge is dropping off because it's been fully paid.
Oh, okay. All right, well, could roll into their bond money, potentially, right? Just throwing that out there.
Okay, can I get, I think we're done with comment. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve incorporating the comments that Ms. Brandon made in terms of trying to fine-tune that language with respect to utilization for capital improvements and development.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
So this will be brought back for second reading next meeting.
Okay, moving on, agenda item 21, consider approval for Raftelis financial consultants to update our water utility forecast.
So as we had our conversations recently about our water rates, the original study that we had Raftellus do was based on 2-year-old capital improvement, or the capital funding for those. And so as we started to have conversations about, new rates, obviously the conversation that we worked with even Kimley Horn is that our construction costs that we've seen are up 30%. So the study that we performed 2 years ago is no longer relevant. So what we have to do is, if we're, still entertaining that, we need to go back and have Raftellus start over again and set that baseline. And then that'll give us an opportunity to look at those 70, 75, and 100% that council asked for in the past. And so this is a agreement with Raftellus to provide a financial forecast, capital recovery charge, and so to update that study.
Thank you. Any council comment or questions? Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving on, agenda item 22, approve centerline drilling piggyback agreement for superficial aquifer well rehab.
So the village plans and maintains plans to rehabilitate 3 wells per year. This superficial well maintenance service are based on the current well maintenance contract for the town of Jupiter in the amount of $18,973. We have budgeted $51,000 maintenance for the 3 wells. This is one of them, and so this is the to approve that contract for the rehabilitation of well 8.
Any council questions or comments?
Jeremy, do you expect to see any differential in the pricing for rehab from one well to the other, or is this indicative of what we're looking at going forward, subject to any inflation adjustment?
I sure am glad I invited Nate to come to the meeting. So.
You get overtime for this.
I will say, just to maybe answer a little bit of that part of that question is when we were having this conversation and we were a little late getting the agenda item on there, and I said, well, it's going to have to go to the next item. I was told that if we waited 30 days that the cost is going to go up. So my guess is that the cost will, with the other 2 wells, you'll be able to answer that.
The piggyback contract is for like the standard practices that are needed to do the maintenance and rehab. So I think the agreement with Jupiter is good for a year. So basically, I think this will be for the upcoming 1 or 2 wells if we can squeeze them in. So, but to what you were saying earlier, though, the last one we did was 14,000 at Sandy Pines, and just a couple of years ago it was like 10 to 12,000.
Yep.
So that's indicative of what we're facing everywhere.
Okay.
So, but I'm 90% sure the next 2 will be the same price.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I don't know if that's helpful.
No, I was just looking at what we budgeted, and obviously it's going to run a little bit more, but
Yeah.
not substantially, but okay.
So.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on, agenda item 23, approve second amendment to employment agreement for the village manager. Keith?
Presented to council is a proposed amendment to the village manager's contract, which first and foremost would extend the term for a new 4-year period. The current contract will expire on June 30th of 2023. This proposed amendment would extend the contract for an additional 4 years out to June 30th of 2027. 2 other proposed amendments to the manager's contract. Number 1 would be to grant an additional 5 days of personal leave each year above what the manager currently receives. And then the second proposed amendment is to increase severance to 20 weeks from the current 16, which is the statutory maximum allowed. All other terms and conditions of the contract would remain as they currently are. This brought to you for your consideration and action.
Thank you. And I do want to say this, the request did come from Jeremy for these changes to the contract. Is any council comment, question?
So, Jeremy, how many weeks of vacation do you have now?
Depends on the years. I think it's 3 weeks.
Okay.
It's based on, I mean, I get the same as everybody else. I think after 2 weeks, or after 2 years, it goes up to 3 weeks, but
Okay. So this would be 3 weeks plus 10 personal days. Then.
Let's see.
Just curious, you know, we could accelerate the vacation to 4 weeks, which is not uncommon for somebody in your type of position. I'm just curious as to why we're doing it as personal days versus maybe just accelerating the vacation to 4 weeks and leaving the personal days at 5.
Well, I would entertain that. I mean, my thought was trying not to make this a financial impact to the village. Where the vacation is, if I ever leave or remove from the village, then there would be that extra week. So I was trying to make this a non-financial impact to the village.
All right.
Okay, any other?
I have one question for Mr. Allen. And seeing as you made the agenda and you placed it on the agenda because it is up for renewal, would you like to stay?
I would. That's one of the reasons why I brought him here. You know, I still think, you know, every day I get up and think how lucky I am to be here. I mean, I still love coming to work, and so I think this agreement is great for me and my family to show the stability, but I also think it's, you know, good for the village and the employees to show that, you know, there's a commitment here on both sides.
And do you still have an open door policy to residents?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, under severance, it says in such case as of July 1st, 2022, should that be 2023? Is that a typo?
That was how it was written, but that's certainly discussable and adjustable by the council.
Well, it's backdating it to this last July. So shouldn't everything be in effect? Because the new contract would start at July 1st, 2023, correct?
The new term will start when the old term expires in 2023. The severance could be effective for all intents and purposes immediately. If the council wanted to make it effective next year, that's a negotiable term between you and the manager.
I think it should start 2023, not backdated to 2022.
So it matches?
Yeah. And then, is everyone good with it, 20 weeks? I mean, something else I thought of is, it's the amendments for 4 years, the 4 weeks of severance pay additional. We could add a week of severance pay every year, so each additional year, it'd be 17 or 16, 17, 18. Now, what do we have now? Yeah, so you're at 16 now, right?
So, and I'm gonna get in a little bit of this. When I came from Texas and I was negotiating this contract, I came from Texas. They don't have any limits on it. I was asking for a year, and obviously Abby corrected me quickly and said that the statutory limits was 16 weeks. And so I was told it was 16 weeks. I get here and it's 20 weeks. I didn't negotiate. I didn't change it after that point. I already signed it. I wanted to be true to that. But however, you know, knowing that it was 20 weeks, that's why I wanted to get there.
And everyone could be good with that. I just want to throw out another option could be to add a year every year of the contract. But if everyone's good with 20, that's fine too. I just want to throw it out there.
I'm fine with 20.
Okay.
Especially since you came in thinking he
You're
was
asking me to do
getting the
math
max.
at 9.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what
like
Councilmember Johnson was saying. What were you saying?
Especially now that we know that Jeremy came in thinking he was getting the max and mistakenly didn't. So I think we should honor that.
Okay.
My only comment would be this. I understand what Jeremy's saying about the vacation, and if we were, you know, and if he were to depart, being entitled to vacation day. I'm okay doing the extra personal days, but I think when you hit 4 weeks vacation, then the personal day should revert from 10 to 5. I don't know when that exact time is. but that would be my only thought at this point.
Where's Marlene when you need her? Where's Marlene when you need her?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what year that would be of employment for him.
Because otherwise, now you're saying 6 weeks, basically. And I would say that's probably excessive. I think the 4 weeks and 5 personal days, I think, is in line with what you would expect in this particular position. And in line with what other, I would say, senior executives in private industry as well. That's usually kind of where it tops out, is 4 weeks vacation, and then a number of personal days, 3 to 5.
Let's just move it to 4 weeks right now.
Well, that's what I was saying. We could just go to 4 weeks vacation and
So that's the right thing.
just accelerate it and keep the personal days at 5. You're not planning on going anywhere, right? So we don't need to worry
I
about
hate
that.
having the conversation when I hear severance anytime, so, I don't plan on going
And you
anywhere.
got the severance, so, yeah, I'd accelerate the vacation to 4 weeks and keep personal days at 5.
Then what is 4 weeks our max vacation? Or would you keep it current after that?
I believe, I don't know, is 4 weeks the max that
I'm
the
trying to
employee
find the
receives?
policy, I'm not.
I think it
sure.
is.
I thought it was, but,
And then, like you said, there's personal days on top of that.
yes, he has 5 now, you keep those 5.
Can you get comp time?
I'm almost there. Hold on. So it says, through year 4, you get 10 days. 5th year through 9th, you get 15 days, and 10th year or more, you get 20 days, or 160 hours. Does that sound right? That's right. Make sure that's right.
Again, for the position you're in, I think 4 weeks is the right amount of vacation, and I'm comfortable with 5 personal days. I think that, again, that should be competitive with anything we see, both in the public and private sectors.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, either way.
And 4 weeks is the max we allow.
10 year or more, it looks like it's 20 days.
So that would be, 20 days is
4 weeks. 4 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but after that, done.
Yeah, I guess that's, yeah, I mean, that's fine.
So long as that's accurate, I'm okay
I
with
mean,
that
that's,
too.
hopefully in 4 years, we'll be having the same conversation again.
Better be. Okay, so, I think, I can't make a motion, but I think the motion would be to approve it with the vacation days instead, and then changing the severance, for July 2023, not 2022.
Right, so it's the motion would be.
Oh, you guys wanna move out the
Extending
severance?
extending for 4 years, extending the severance to 20 weeks, and vacation would be effectively moved to 4 weeks now, and personal days would remain at 5.
And the severance at 2023, did you say that?
Right, and, yeah, 2023, right, for the severance increase.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Hey, can you vote on this?
I didn't ask for public comment. Was there any public comment on that? Oh, goodness gracious. No one corrected me either. Come on, guys. I got through the whole meeting.
It is, we did approve it, it's approved.
Sorry. Any other matters from council? Let me do council first, and then I'll call you up, Mayor Dan.
No, ma'am.
Nope.
Okay.
I'll say that, can we talk about starting these meetings at 5:30 versus 6? Does that create an issue with anybody up here? Just to kind of honor staff's time and stuff. That'd be beneficial.
I know from my personal schedule, that could be tight sometimes. What do you see at most? I know you attend other council meetings. What times do they usually start?
Meetings that are held in the evening, 6 o'clock is a very typical, some don't start until 7 o'clock.
We used to start at 7.
We used to start at 7, we rolled it back to
And
6.
I think my first or second year on the council, we moved it up to 6.
I'm aware of, one of my councils starts at 4, so.
I'd be worried
There's
about other
plenty
people that maybe have to get here for a presentation or in traffic, like that might be tight too.
6 would be tight for me on certain days, too.
Thank you for bringing it up, though. I know it got brought up before. I want to quickly bring this up. now that we're through Treasure Coast Regional Planning, that should be on our November agenda. And then Nil says, I think was December or January. Does anyone want to consider a zoning in progress at this point? Which would not stop applications, but would allow for us to enforce, the stopgap to allow us to enforce the codes we're rewriting and the guidelines we're adding to the code for any application that's submitted until it's officially voted on by us. The new, the new ordinances and whatever else we have to do.
No.
Yes.
I think we're doing okay with the way we're handling things right now, so I don't see a reason to disrupt that.
Don't see anything that we're trying to fix in that situation.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Mayor Dan, I think you had a comment?
I did. I just wanted to say congratulations to Jeremy. Happy that you're going to be here a little while longer. Jeremy is a wonderful partner. He's a pleasure to work with, which is why we paid for his lunch the other day with Chief Medina. And I know Chief Medina downplayed this, but I wanted to make a comment earlier. This was a really big deal that Chief Medina and Pastor Paul got this award last week at the Blue Unity dinner, which we were at. Jupiter Inlet County, we took a table to honor them and invited Mayor Abbey. I invited Mayor Young as well, but she unfortunately could not attend because it was her child's birthday. I said, leave your child at home, come to the dinner. But she said, no, my child is much more important. And I understood, but there were over 300 people there from all over the country, and it was a big deal. And I know that Chief Medina did not publicize it here and didn't tell any of you that he was getting this award. It's sort of like just sort of leaked out, but it was a big deal. And it was very well attended by people from all over the country. So I just wanted to pay recognition to them. So it was fantastic. So, and congratulations.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor Dan. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
She left, didn't she?